Chapter 868. I am the prince of the broken dynasty. You can't kill me. Duan Tianshun roared crazily. Boom! But it couldn't stop the 10,000 beast spirit fire from hitting him. In an instant, Duan Tianshun turned into a fireball. Dog Eye, the broken dynasty, will not let you go. Ah! Duan Tianshun let out a painful roar, but his voice became smaller and smaller, and gradually lost his vitality. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for killing a fourth-order demon venerable powerhouse. Congratulations to the host for gaining 70,000 experience points. After killing Duan Tianshun, Yihao stood in place, waiting for Sun Shangxiang to return. Oh, this is a token? Yihao walked to the ground and picked up a dark gold token. This is Duan Tianshun's identity token. Yihao looked at the token in his hand and found that it was Duan Tianshun's prince token. Yihao wanted to throw it away directly, but then thought about it and put it back in the system space. After waiting for a while, Sun Shangxiang finally returned, but his face was not very good. This subordinate is back. Please punish me. Sun Shangxiang said directly on the ground. What's wrong? Yihao frowned and asked Sun Shangxiang. This subordinate is incompetent. I only cut off one of that person's shoulders and let him escape. Sun Shangxiang said with a guilty face. What? He actually escaped. Yihao didn't expect that Sun Shangxiang didn't kill him. And he killed Duan Tianshun. When the middle-aged demon venerable returned to the broken dynasty, he would inevitably launch a crazy revenge. But thinking about it carefully, Yihao didn't care. After all, the person had already been killed, and it was useless to worry about it. It's better to improve your strength as soon as possible. Yihao looked at Sun Shangxiang, who was kneeling on the ground. Get up. Thank you, Master, for not punishing me. Sun Shangxiang immediately thanked. Who said you won't be punished? Yihao looked at Sun Shangxiang. Sun Shangxiang was obviously stunned and looked at Yihao in confusion. I'll punish you. You have to find 30 demon Lord-level demonic beasts within a month. Yihao said to Sun Shangxiang. According to his calculations, if he could kill 30 demon sovereigns, it would be enough for him to raise his cultivation by 1 level. As for 30 demon exalts, that wasn't a lot, but it wasn't a small number either. After all, demonic beasts that had reached the level of demon venerables all had their own domains and were widely distributed. It would not be easy to find them. However, in front of Sun Shangxiang, who is the demon emperor, it was really not a problem. Sun Shangxiang is willing to be punished. Sun Shangxiang immediately laughed when she heard Yihao's punishment. You go and catch the demonic beast first, Yihao said to Sun Shangxiang. Then he found a big tree and sat down cross-legged. Yihao took out a spirit coin and started to draw out the spiritual energy in the spirit coin. After 3 days, Yihao couldn't help but throw away the spirit coin in his hand because there was no longer a trace of spiritual energy in the spirit coin. The spiritual energy in the spirit coin was naturally drawn out by him. Speaking of the results of these 3 days, to Yihao, it was really not small. Originally, he wanted to draw out the spiritual energy from the spirit coin, but it was very difficult and impossible. Now, he could easily draw out the spiritual energy from the spirit coin. However, although he could draw out the spiritual energy from the spirit coin, he had been unable to absorb the spiritual energy from the spirit coin into his body. It seemed that the spiritual energy was very difficult to control, or it could be said that his strength was simply not enough. This was because once the spiritual energy was drawn out of the spirit coin, it would immediately go out of control and dissipate into the air. This made Yihao very distressed. However, he had already tried dozens of times in a row, but it was still the same. In the past few days, Sun Shangxiang had already sent back 4 or 5 demonic beasts at the demon venerable level, and these demonic beasts were naturally killed by him and turned into experience points. I don't believe it. Yihao didn't believe in heresy. He took out another spirit coin and continued to draw out the spiritual energy. Yihao skillfully drew out the spiritual energy from the spirit coin. Yihao could sense a strong power from the spiritual energy. However, as soon as the spiritual energy was drawn out, It immediately dissipated like ice cubes thrown into hot water. Again, Yi Hao didn't get tired and repeated his current actions. If others saw this scene, they would definitely be shocked. One had to know that even a demon venerable expert couldn't draw out the spiritual energy from the spirit coin, let alone Yi Hao, the demon emperor. Only a devil emperor level powerhouse could do this. There were also many demon emperor experts who couldn't do it as skillfully as Yi Hao. Sun Shangxiang came back with a huge demonic beast. Compared to Sun Shangxiang was as small as an ant. However, in front of Sun Shangxiang's powerful strength, the demonic beast didn't dare to move at all. Sun Shangxiang looked at the abandoned spirit coins on the ground and couldn't help but admire Yi Hao. After all, as a demon emperor, she knew very well that it was impossible to draw out the spiritual energy from the spirit coin unless one was a demon emperor. However, Yi Hao could do it. "My lord, the demonic beast has been caught," Sun Shangxiang said to Yi Hao. It took a long time this time. Yi Hao threw down the spirit coin in his hand and looked at Sun Shangxiang. "My lord, there are fewer and fewer demon venerables nearby. We should change locations," Sun Shangxiang said to Yi Hao. "All right." Yi Hao nodded when he heard Sun Shangxiang's words. In Bai Mutin's tavern in Qingshui town, a group of men in black barged into the tavern. Zhang Lei shouted, "Boss, get out here. Yo, what kind of wind is this? It brought all of you out." Bai Mutin walked down the stairs. When the group of men in black saw Bai Mutin, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. "Let me ask you, have you seen this person before?" Zhang Lei took out a portrait and threw it in front of Bai Mutin. At first, Bai Mutin's face was still blank. However, when he saw that it was Yi Hao in the portrait, his expression changed. "What? Do you know him?" Zhang Lei's eyes were sharp. When he asked Bai Mutin earlier, his gaze was always on Bai Mutin. Bai Mutin saw Zhang Lei and the rest, and knew that they didn't come with good intentions. He immediately denied, "I don't know him." "Is that so?" Zhang Lei turned around and scanned the entire tavern. He ordered his subordinates, "Search." "Yes." Zhang Lei's subordinates behind him shouted in unison. "All of you stop. Who are you? How dare you act so rashly in Qingshui town? Do you still have the law?" "That's right. Qingshui town doesn't welcome you. Hurry up and get out. If you dare to mess around again, don't blame us for being impolite." One had to know that Bai Mutin's reputation in Qingshui town wasn't bad. Seeing that Zhang Lei wanted to make things difficult for Bai Mutin, the mercenaries immediately stood up and spoke. Clang. Chapter 869. Thud, thud, thud. The mercenary's head fell to the ground and rolled on the wooden floor. The crowd didn't expect Zhang Lei to make a move just like that. They retreated a few steps in fear. "Search for me. Kill whoever dares to spout nonsense." Zhang Lei's seventh order demon venerable aura burst out from his body. So strong, all the mercenaries felt Zhang Lei's aura, and fear filled their eyes. Following Zhang Lei's words, everyone started searching. "Reported to Sir, no. Reporting to Sir, no. Reporting to Sir, no." Soon, Zhang Lei's subordinates came back and reported. Zhang Lei frowned when he heard this. "All of you, take a look and see if you've seen this person before." Zhang Lei went out to look at Yi Hao's portrait and asked all the mercenaries. Actually, most of the mercenaries could recognize Yi Hao. After all, there was no one in Qingshui town who didn't know that Yi Hao had drunk so much Emperor's intoxicated wine in the restaurant. And those who saw this scene with their own eyes would never forget Yi Hao. If it were any other time, there would be many people who would stand up and tell Zhang Lei that they've seen Yi Hao. But because they saw Zhang Lei's arrogant appearance and how he killed one of their people, they didn't put them in his eyes at all. Since Zhang Lei was like this, they naturally wouldn't tell Zhang Lei that they've seen Yi Hao. Could it be that that kid really didn't come to Qingshui town? But that shouldn't be the case. Zhang Lei thought to himself, "Sir, I know that kid." At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from the crowd. Everyone looked at the source of the voice when they heard it. Bai Mutin frowned and looked at this person. Her heart sank as she knew that things weren't good. If she wasn't wrong, this person used to be a member of the Iron Tiger mercenary group. "Oh, you know him?" Zhang Lei's face lit up as he looked at the person who spoke. That person immediately nodded. Reporting to Sir, my name is Iron Dog. I used to be a member of the Iron Tiger mercenary group. If I'm not mistaken, this kid is the one who destroyed my Iron Tiger mercenary group. When Iron Dog mentioned Yi Hao, he could not help but gnash his teeth in hatred. One had to know that when the Iron Tiger mercenary group was around, he was an existence that could do whatever he wanted in Qingshui Town. But ever since the Iron Tiger mercenary group was annihilated, his backing was completely gone and his status naturally plummeted. He attributed all of this to Yi Hao. He believed that it was Yi Hao who caused him to become like this. When Tai Hu brought his men to cause trouble for Yi Hao, he did not come over. However, when he arrived, Tai Hu and the others were already dead. Naturally, he did not dare to reveal his identity. Not revealing his identity didn't mean that he didn't know Yi Hao. One had to know that at that time. He firmly remembered Yi Hao in his mind. He still vaguely remembered that Bai Mutin sat in Yi Hao's embrace and served Yi Hao wine. All right, they all know that kid. Bai Mutin even served him wine before. Iron Dog immediately pointed at everyone and said, Iron Dog, you're a traitor. Are you still a member of Qingshui Town? If we knew that you weren't a good person, we would have chased you out of Qingshui Town. Iron Dog, how can you have a good ending after harming us like this? When everyone heard Iron Dog's words, they immediately shouted anxiously. Bai Mutin looked at Iron Dog with a hint of killing intent in his eyes. Good, you're not bad. Zhang Lei praised Iron Dog, following which Zhang Lei looked at everyone with a sinister gaze. You bunch of lowly trash. How dare you deceive me? Today I'm going to smash this restaurant and kill all of you who don't know what's good for you. Zhang Lei scanned the crowd and said, Men, do it. Zhang Lei waved his hand, and his subordinates were about to attack. And you be *TCH. Don't you like to drink with that kid? Serve me well today. Zhang Lei looked at Bai Mutin and said, What are you trying to do? Bai Mutin saw that Zhang Lei was actually closing in on him and couldn't help but ask anxiously, What am I trying to do? You'll know in a while. Zhang Lei smiled lecherously and reached out to grab Bai Mutin. At this moment, Zhang Lei's subordinates were already facing off with a group of mercenaries. The battle could erupt at any time. Kill everyone. Don't leave a single one alive, Zhang Lei said arrogantly. He didn't seem to care about these people at all. Stop. Just as Zhang Lei's subordinates were about to attack, a voice was suddenly heard. Upon hearing this voice, everyone subconsciously looked towards the source of the voice. When Bai Mutin heard this familiar voice, he couldn't help but look towards Yi Hao and think to himself, I didn't expect to actually see him again. However, Bai Mutin immediately thought of Zhang Lei's extraordinary strength and was afraid that Yi Hao wouldn't be a match for Zhang Lei. He immediately said anxiously, Hurry up and run. When he saw Yi Hao, he couldn't help but feel delighted. One had to know that he had been searching for a long time in the demon forest of Fallen Emperor, but he hadn't been able to find him. He really had no choice but to come to Qingshui Town and try his luck. He wanted to see if he could find him by sheer luck. However, he hadn't expected that Yi Hao would actually appear without any effort. When Zhang Lei heard Bai Mutin's voice, he immediately said unhappily, Shut up, you slut. As he said that, Zhang Lei was about to slap Bai Mutin. If you dare touch her, that hand of yours will be crippled. Yi Hao said icily when he saw that Zhang Lei was about to attack Bai Mutin. Haha, crippling my hand? I can't wait to see that. I want to see how a piece of trash like you can cripple my hand. Zhang Lei didn't take Yi Hao's words to heart as he continued to slap Bai Mutin fearlessly. Everyone was watching this scene. Shut your eyes, peony, Yi Hao said to Bai Mutin. When Bai Mutin heard Yi Hao's words, she obediently shut her eyes. Trash. Zhang Lei originally thought that Yi Hao would make a move. However, when he saw that Yi Hao didn't move an inch and even told Bai Mutin to close her eyes, he was even more disdainful of Yi Hao. Close her eyes? What is he doing? Who knows what this kid is up to? Is he really going to watch Mr. Bai get beaten up? If that's the case, then I really feel bad for Mr. Bai. Cripple his hand. Who is he talking to? Everyone looked at Yi Hao in confusion. Whoosh! Just as everyone was focused on Zhang hand that was about to land on by Mutant's face, an arrow suddenly shot toward Zhang hand at lightning speed. The sharp arrow directly pierced through Zhang palm. Ah! Zhang screamed in pain. Bastard, it's you! Zhang held his crippled right hand and looked at Yi Hao in pain and madness. Chapter 870. Everyone looked at Zhang Lei's crippled hand in shock. One by one, they looked around, but they didn't know where the arrow had come from. Kill this bastard! Zhang Lei roared like a madman with his crippled hand. Yes! Hearing Zhang Lei's order, the three guards near Yi Hao attacked Yi Hao. Kill! The three guards shouted in unison. Whoosh! 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 Just as the three guards were about to attack Yi Hao, three arrows suddenly flew over and shot toward the three guards. The three guards did not even have time to react before they fell to the ground one by one. Who is it? Who is it? Zhang Lei panicked when he saw that his three subordinates were killed. At the same time, Zhang Lei felt a sense of fear. Whoosh! Another arrow flew toward them. This arrow was aimed at Zhang Lei. Zhang Lei's expression changed when he saw the arrow flying toward him. He realized that he actually sensed a dangerous aura from the arrow. Moreover, the arrow gave him a strong pressure. He realized that he could not dodge it. There was only one possibility, and that was that his opponent was much stronger than him. However, he was a 7th Order demon venerable. Only a demon emperor could do such a thing. But how could it be? He did not want to believe that there would be a demon emperor here. Zhang Lei had no choice but to grab one of the guards beside him and use him as a shield. No. The guard did not expect that Zhang Lei would use him as a shield at such a critical moment. Unsurprisingly, the arrow pierced through the guard's head. Zhang Lei wanted to escape to the side. He wanted to capture Bai Mutant. He could tell that Bai Mutant was related to Yi Hao, and the person hiding in the dark shooting arrows must be Yi Hao's men. Therefore, he wanted to capture Bai Mutant to threaten Yi Hao to compromise. Whoosh! However, it was as if the arrows had eyes. One of the arrows directly blocked his path. Be careful! Yi Hao knew what Zhang Lei was trying to do. He immediately pulled Bai Mutant behind him. What are you all standing there for? Attack! Zhang Lei dodged the arrows in a sorry state and immediately roared at his subordinates. Zhang Lei's subordinates were no longer as arrogant as before. They were all looking around with fear and worry. After all, the arrow that was shot was like an arrow of death in their eyes. It was too scary, but they did not dare to disobey Zhang Lei's orders. They gritted their teeth and attacked Yi Hao. In order to protect Bai Peony, Yi Hao had no choice but to continuously retreat, unable to free his hands to attack the guards. Sun Shangxiang, kill them for me. Yi Hao was enraged and couldn't help but shout. Boom! Just as Yi Hao finished his words, a powerful force enveloped the entire restaurant. Instantly, countless mercenaries could not resist and knelt on the ground. Zhang Lei and his men looked terrible. Under the force of the force, they could not move at all. Die! A cold voice was heard, and a beautiful figure entered the restaurant. Who are you? I am from the Tianyuan kingdom. You can't kill me. Zhang Lei saw Sun Shangxiang suddenly appear in front of him. He did not expect the expert hiding in the dark to be a woman. Zhang Lei did not want to die, but he did not dare to reveal the identity of the second princess. Therefore, he could only use the name of the Tianyuan kingdom. But how could he know that Yi Hao even dared to kill the prince of the broken dynasty? He was just a subordinate of the princess. What was he? Sun Shangxiang's figure moved, and the long sword in her hand pierced through his neck. Zhang Lei groaned and was deader than dead. The rest of Zhang Lei's subordinates could not escape death either. They were all killed. What a beautiful sister. She's so skilled. Bai Mutant looked at Sun Shangxiang in surprise. You're quite capable. You've been to the Emperor Fall Demon Forest for more than a month, and you've already hooked up with such a beauty. Bai Mutant looked at Yi Hao and said. Yi Hao could naturally hear that Bai Mutant's words carried a hint of jealousy. However, Yi Hao did not explain Sun Shangxiang's identity. After all, no one would believe that such a powerful subordinate had suddenly appeared in the Emperor Fall Demon Forest. Therefore, Yihao was too lazy to explain. I wonder if there's any more Emperor's intoxication? Yihao looked at Bai Mutin and asked. If there was anything in Qingshui town that he missed, it would probably be this Emperor's intoxication. Yes, young master, please wait. Bai Mutin covered her mouth and laughed when she heard Yihao's words. Then, she turned around and went upstairs. Before long, Bai Mutin brought down a few jugs of wine. Young master, please drink. There's quite a lot this time. Oh, there's really some? Yihao had only said it casually. He hadn't expected that Bai Mutin would actually have some Emperor's intoxication. Furthermore, based on her words, it seemed that Bai Mutin had quite a few people with him. Young master, you don't know. Ever since you left, the boss has been brewing the Emperor's intoxication every day. A maidservant spoke first when she heard Yihao's words. What? This Emperor's intoxication was brewed by you? Yihao was really surprised when he heard the maidservant's words. Bai Mutin glared angrily at the maidservant. When she heard Yihao's question, she still nodded. Follow me. How about you specially brew for me? Yihao felt that this Emperor's intoxication wasn't bad. Most importantly, this Emperor's intoxication had actually been brewed by Bai Mutin. This meant that Bai Mutin's brewing talent wasn't bad. Furthermore, drinking this Emperor's intoxication actually gave experience points. Yihao couldn't help but think that if he leveled up this Emperor's intoxication, the experience points he would gain would be even more. Bai Mutin was dumbfounded when she heard Yihao's words. Clearly, she hadn't expected Yihao to say such a thing. Then, Bai Mutin sank in a deep thought. You have to think about it. There's no need to be anxious. Yihao said when he saw Bai Mutin's expression. Okay. Bai Mutin nodded immediately when she heard Yihao's words. I wonder how your gains in the Emperor's fallen demon forest were, young master? Bai Mutin asked curiously as she looked at Yihao. She knew very well that Yihao had gone to the buried Emperor's secret realm. However, Yihao would be gone for more than a month. During this month, the more she waited for Yihao, the more worried she became. After all, no matter how long it took to enter a secret realm, it couldn't possibly take more than a month. Therefore, she was afraid that Yihao would be in danger. She also didn't know why she was suddenly concerned about someone she hadn't known for long. How could she have known that Yihao had gone to hunt demonic beasts after exploring the buried Emperor's secret realm? Chapter 871. Let's go. There were 3 people standing at the entrance of Qingshui town. Yihao said to Bai Mutin. Bai Mutin looked at Qingshui town reluctantly because she had lived in Qingshui town for too long. She had never thought that she would leave Qingshui town one day. Yihao summoned the Black Wind Leopard. Fortunately, the Black Wind Leopard's huge body could accommodate 3 people without any problem. I wonder if that Zhonglei was sent by the second princess or the first princess. Sitting on the Black Wind Leopard's back, Yihao's eyes revealed a murderous intent. After all, Zhonglei's intention was very obvious. That was to kill him. Although Zhonglei had been killed, Yihao would definitely not let the person behind Zhonglei off so easily. Of course, no matter who sent him, when he appeared in Tianyuan Imperial City, he would definitely give the person behind the scenes a surprise. When Bai Mutin knew that Yihao was rushing back to the Imperial City, she couldn't help but exclaim, I didn't expect young master to come from the Imperial City. Bai Mutin looked at Yihao and realized that she couldn't guess Yihao's identity at all. All right, did you invent the Imperial Drunken Wine yourself? Yihao looked at Bai Mutin and suddenly asked. Bai Mutin nodded. That's right. I invented it when I had nothing to do. Bai Mutin was telling the truth. Originally, she only knew how to brew ordinary wine for use in restaurants. But when she had nothing to do, she gathered some fresh spiritual herbs and thought of blending the juice of the spiritual herbs into the wine. Originally, she just wanted to pass the time when she had nothing to do. But what surprised her was that although the wine she invented couldn't compare to the current Imperial Drunken Wine, it was still not bad. This ignited her interest, and from then on, she couldn't stop. So from then on, she kept researching. She threw away some unsuitable spiritual herbs and kept looking for spiritual herbs to match and add into the wine. Slowly, the current Rinzai was formed. And Rin intoxication was still very helpful to martial artists. However, the only drawback of the Emperor's intoxication was that the aftereffects were too great. Martial artists simply could not drink too much. Therefore, the Emperor's intoxication immediately became of little value. However, it was undeniable that the effects of the intoxication of the Emperor were undeniable. And up until now, Yi Hao was the only one who could drink so much Rin intoxication without getting drunk. Actually, Yi Hao knew that it wasn't because he wasn't drunk. Instead, the system had converted the potency of the medicine into experience points. There was no need for him to refine it. As for the other cultivators who drank the drunken emperor, how could they have such a powerful existence like the system? Although he drank the emperor's intoxication, the medicinal strength mixed within the emperor's intoxication still needed to be consumed by the cultivator himself. Moreover, because Mutin had mixed too many spirit herbs into the wine, people who drank the wine would fall into a deep sleep. Yi Hao believed that as long as Rinzai continued to improve, it would definitely get better and better. You two go to the Tianyuan Academy first, Yi Hao said to Sun Shangxiang and Mutin. Okay. The two of them already knew about Yi Hao's plan, so they weren't surprised. After parting ways with the two of them, Yi Hao headed to the Tianyuan Royal City alone. Tianyuan Royal City, I'm coming. Yi Hao's eyes lit up as he looked at the Tianyuan Royal City. As long as he helped Zhao Ling, win the position of the emperor's son-in-law, the Tianyuan Academy would be his. When the time came, he would be able to borrow the power of the Tianyuan kingdom to develop his own power. Father, the emperor's son-in-law competition is about to begin. Why haven't you told me where Yi Hao has gone? Zhao Ling asked anxiously in Emperor Tianyuan's palace. Just go back and wait. Emperor Tianyuan glanced at Zhao Ling and said, although he looked calm on the surface, deep down, he was still worried about Yi Hao. After all, there was still no news of Yi Hao. He had secretly received news that the second princess had secretly sent someone out. When he heard this news, there was no way to stop it. At this moment, he could only hope that Yi Hao's luck would be better and that he would be able to return safely. Humph! Zhao Ling could only leave in a huff when he saw that Emperor Tianyuan wasn't going to say anything. Oh, isn't this Imperial sister? Why are you here again? Don't tell me you're here for that Yi Hao again. Zhao Ling had just walked out of Emperor Tianyuan's palace when he bumped into the second princess. The second princess looked at Zhao Ling and spoke in a sarcastic tone. Her eyes were full of mockery. At the same time, she couldn't help but laugh inwardly. Xia Haoshuan might have already died in the demon forest of fallen emperors. The second princess was very confident in Zhang Lei's strength. Therefore, she believed that Zhang Lei had already killed Yi Hao. Therefore, she was in a very good mood at this moment. What does it have to do with you? Zhao Ling ignored the second princess's words and turned to leave. Imperial sister, don't be in such a hurry to leave. The emperor's son-in-law selection is in a few days. I wonder if you're ready, Imperial sister? You don't have to worry about that, second princess. Zhao Ling could tell that the second princess was here to cause trouble, so he spoke in a low voice. Imperial sister, don't tell me you're waiting for Yi Hao. I heard that Yi Hao went to the demon forest of fallen emperors. It's really hard to say if he'll come back alive. Zhao Ling's attitude made her very unhappy. The second princess couldn't help but speak up. Who said that I won't come back alive? Just as the second princess finished speaking, a voice suddenly rang out from outside the courtyard. Stop right there. Who are you? The guards at the door tried to stop him. It's him. The second princess naturally remembered Yi Hao's voice. At this moment, her expression couldn't help but change. How is this possible? How could he come back alive? The second princess firmly believed that Zhang Lei, whom she had sent, could kill Yi Hao. However, at this moment, Yi Hao had actually returned safe and sound. This made her feel very uncomfortable. Zhao Ling's face, which had been as cold as ice at the beginning, couldn't help but reveal a smile when he saw Yi Hao's figure. Seeing that the guards were stopping him, Yi Hao couldn't help but take out the silver dragon token. The guards' expressions changed when they saw the silver dragon token. They immediately bowed and said, "Greetings, Your Excellency. Please forgive us." Silver dragon token? Imperial sister, you actually gave the silver dragon token to this kid. The second princess's voice was cold as she looked at Zhao Ling. No one knew what she was thinking. Zhao Ling was shocked when he heard the second princess's words. This was because the silver dragon token was with him. He hadn't given it to Yi Hao. The silver dragon token is incomparably important. Imperial sister, you actually dared to give it to an outsider. Aren't you afraid that something will happen? When the second princess saw that Zhao Ling wasn't speaking, she really believed that the silver dragon token was Zhao Ling's. Chapter 872. Who said I gave him my silver dragon medallion? Zhao Ling looked at the second princess and retorted, "If you didn't give it to him, then where is your silver dragon token, Imperial sister? Can you show it to me?" The second princess looked at Zhao Ling with a smile. She was certain that Yi Hao's silver dragon token was Zhao Ling's. "Since you want to see it, I'll give it to you." Zhao Ling took out the silver dragon token and threw it to the second princess. The second princess caught the silver dragon token immediately. She was stunned and her expression changed. How is this possible? Where did he get his silver dragon token? The second princess looked at the silver dragon token in her hand and frowned. Could it be that his silver dragon token is fake? The second princess suddenly thought of something. "Why, second princess, do you want to see my silver dragon token too?" Yi Hao looked at the second princess with a sour expression and asked with a smile, "You?" The second princess's expression darkened when she heard Yi Hao's sarcastic words. "Since you want to see it, take it." Yi Hao didn't mind and threw the silver dragon token to the second princess. The second princess caught it and looked at it. She knew that Yi Hao's silver dragon token was real too. How is this possible? The second princess was puzzled. Where did Yi Hao get his silver dragon token from? "I gave him his silver dragon token. Do you still have any questions?" Emperor Tianyuan's voice suddenly sounded at this moment. "What?" The second princess was shocked when she heard Emperor Tianyuan's words. She immediately bowed and said, "Greetings, father." The second princess lowered her head. She didn't understand why Emperor Tianyuan would give Yi Hao his silver dragon token. What did this mean? It meant that Yi Hao's status and position were the same as hers. This was definitely not a good sign for her. "Well, there's no need to be so polite." Emperor Tianyuan said, "Second princess, what brings you here?" Reporting to Imperial Father, "I'm fine. I'll take my leave now." The second princess had come here to mock Zhao Ling. However, she never expected that Yi Hao would suddenly come back. This made her good mood disappear completely. She wanted to know why Zhang Lei did not kill Yi Hao. Even now, she still didn't think that Zhang Lei was dead. But now that Yi Hao was back, it would definitely disrupt her original plan. So she immediately went back to challenge her plan. "Yes." Emperor Tianyuan nodded at the second princess's words and did not stop her. The second princess immediately turned around and left. Before she left, she did not forget to glare angrily at Yi Hao. "Yi Hao, where did you go? Are you okay?" After the second princess left, Zhao Ling immediately walked to Yi Hao's side and asked with concern, "I went to the Emperfall Demon Forest. Of course I'm fine." Yi Hao replied with a smile when he saw Zhao Ling's concerned expression. "You actually went to the Emperfall Demon Forest." Although Zhao Ling had received news that Yi Hao might have gone to the Emperfall Demon Forest, she did not expect Yi Hao to really go to the Emperfall Demon Forest. "Boy, I didn't expect you to come back safely. I really didn't misjudge you." Emperor Tianyuan looked at Yi Hao. At first, he was worried about Yi Hao's safety, but now he knew that his worries were unnecessary. "Boy, are you confident in the Prince Consort competition?" Emperor Tianyuan looked at Yi Hao and asked. "The Prince Consort competition is mine," Yi Hao said with a confident smile. Zhao Ling looked at Yi Hao's confident words and looked at Yi Hao. She couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, and then her face turned red. "That's good. Then you guys chat." Hearing Yi Hao's words, Emperor Tianyuan nodded in satisfaction and then turned to leave. Yi Hao, I want to eat barbecue. After seeing Emperor Tianyuan leave, Zhao Linger looked at Yi Hao and said, there was actually a trace of coquettishness in her tone. What a foodie! Yi Hao didn't expect that the first thing Zhao Linger did when he returned to the palace was to eat. However, Yi Hao remembered the worry in Zhao Linger's eyes at the beginning. Therefore, he naturally had to satisfy Zhao Linger's desire to eat barbecue. All right then, let's go to your bedroom first. Yi Hao nodded in agreement. After all, this was where Emperor Tianyuan handled his official affairs. He couldn't possibly help Zhao Linger barbecue here. Although he wasn't afraid of Emperor Tianyuan, he couldn't go overboard. All right, let's go quickly. Zhao Linger looked like a greedy cat and swallowed her saliva. She couldn't wait to pull Yi Hao away. Yi Hao was pulled by Zhao Linger and had no choice. After all, it wasn't good to struggle. He could only follow behind Zhao Ling. Delicious. It's really delicious. Sob sob. Delicious. Slow down, there's still more. Yi Hao couldn't help but smile as he watched Zhao Linger eat. He simply couldn't close his mouth and couldn't help but smile. The guards at the side couldn't help but be completely stunned. Was this still Princess? Looking at the way Zhao Linger ate, there was no trace of the noble aura of a princess. She was simply a starving person. The guards couldn't help but be curious. How delicious was the food that Yi Hao barbecued to be able to make Zhao Linger eat like this? However, when they smelled the tempting aroma, although the guards had far away, their eyes were fixed on the barbecue, and they all swallowed their saliva. Outrageous. A bunch of useless trash. A bunch of useless trash. A bunch of useless trash. At this moment, in the second princess palace, the second princess was furious. A group of palace maids and eunuchs, including the second princess's personal guards, were all kneeling on the ground. Do you know where Zhonglei is right now? The second princess asked coldly. Your Highness, this subordinate hasn't been able to contact Lord Zhong for the time being, a guard said cautiously. When that dog comes back, make him kneel in front of this princess, the second princess said angrily at the thought of Zhonglei. Zhonglei's strength was considered outstanding among her subordinates. She actually sent Zhonglei because she valued Zhonglei. She wanted Zhonglei to kill Yi Hao so that there wouldn't be any mistakes. However, to her disappointment, Yi Hao actually came back safe and sound. Therefore, she wanted to vent all her anger on Zhonglei. However, what she didn't know was that Zhonglei was already dead. Call Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun here, the second princess said after some thought. Yes, Your Highness. Upon hearing the second princess's order, a guard immediately left the palace. Soon, two young men strode into the palace and bowed to the second princess at the same time. Your subordinates, Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun, greet Your Highness. Do the two of you know why I call the two of you here? The second princess asked as she looked at the two of them. Chapter 873. It's good that you know. I asked you to prepare for the competition. How are your preparations? The second princess nodded when she heard Zhang Tian's words. Don't worry, Your Highness. With the two of us working for you, you don't have to worry about anything. Zhang Tian and Zhang Tian said confidently. Don't be so confident. If you can't complete this mission, you won't be able to keep your heads. The second princess looked at the two of them and said mercilessly. Hearing the second princess's words and seeing the second princess's sharp gaze, the confidence on Zhang Tian and Zhang Li's faces instantly disappeared. They both said at the same time, the two of us will definitely do our best. Apart from the first princess's men, there is another person who will be your opponent this time. The second princess thought of Yi Hao, and her eyes were filled with killing intent. Another person? Who is it? Why haven't we heard of him before? Could it be that he's a hidden genius from another clan? Zhang Tian and Zhang Tian were even more confused when they heard the second princess's words. They had been preparing for this competition for a long time. They had done their research on all the disciples who could participate in the competition. The only person who could pose a threat to them was the first princess's subordinate, Feng Jie. He was an expert in the way of the sword. Moreover, Fang Jie was a rank 3 demon honorable, which was above them. However, they were confident that they could fight with Fang Jie. As for the rest of the disciples, they didn't care about them at all. Therefore, they couldn't think of anyone else besides Fang Jie that they should be careful of. His name is Yi Hao, the second princess said. Yi Hao, why does this name sound so familiar? The two of them started to think when they heard the second princess's words. He is the principal of the first academy, the second princess said when she saw the two of them in deep thought. What? It's him. The two of them were shocked when they heard the second princess's words. The news of the first academy challenging the Tianyuan Academy and killing the Tianyuan Academy's principal had spread throughout the Tianyuan kingdom. There was no one in the Tianyuan kingdom who did not know about it. They couldn't understand why Yi Hao would participate in the competition. Don't worry, I've sent someone to investigate. This person should be a rank 1 or rank 2 demon honorable. When the second princess saw Zhang Tian and Zhang Xian, a hint of worry appeared on her face. She immediately opened her mouth to comfort them. Phew! Hearing the second princess's words, Zhang Tian and Zhang Li let out a sigh of relief. After all, Yi Hao's identity as the headmaster of the first academy was too intimidating to be able to kill the headmaster of the Tianyuan Academy. However, this Yi Hao went to Emperor Fallen Devil Forest during this period of time. I'm afraid that this brat obtained some sort of fortuitous encounter. You all have to be careful. The second princess didn't forget to warn them. What's wrong, Your Highness? Did this brat upset you? Zhang Tian could not help but guess when he saw the second princess's eyes burning with rage at the mention of Yi Hao. That's right. If it's possible, I want you to kill him. The second princess said through gritted teeth. We are duty-bound to serve Your Highness. We will definitely teach this ungrateful bastard a lesson for Your Highness. That's right. Since he dared to provoke Her Highness, he should be torn into pieces. This was a good opportunity to curry favor. Naturally, Zhang Tian and Zhang Li wouldn't let it go so easily. If you can satisfy me and kill this bastard, I won't mistreat you. The second princess immediately promised. Thank you, Your Highness. Then we will leave and prepare for battle. The two of them bowed to the second princess. You may leave. Seeing the two of them leave, the second princess thought of Yi Hao. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent. Bastard, I won't let you off so easily this time. Some people were kneeling in the first princess palace. You said that Yi Hao is back? The first princess asked as she lay lazily on a chair. That's right. Yi Hao is with the third princess now. The guard quickly replied. Ha 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 ha. Hearing the guard's words, the first princess actually laughed. It seems that the people sent by the second princess are also useless. They can't even kill a single person. She usually fought with the second princess, so she was naturally very willing to see the second princess suffer at this moment. Have you investigated where Yi Hao went? The first princess continued to ask after laughing. It seems that he went to the Supreme Demon Forest. The guard immediately replied. The Supreme Demon Forest? Do you know why he went there? The first princess looked lazy as she yawned and asked. It seems that he went there to train. Train? Do you know what that kid's current cultivation is? The first princess continued to ask after hearing the guard's answer. I don't know about that. The guard carefully replied. However, Her Highness, the second princess, called the two brothers Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun over not long ago. It seems that the second princess is very concerned about this prince consort competition. The first princess sneered. After a while, the first princess suddenly opened her eyes and looked at the only young man standing to the side. Fang Jie, are you confident about this prince consort competition? The first princess asked the young man. The young man was dressed in a black warrior's attire. He looked very capable and experienced. The young man carried a black sword on his back. His handsome face was well-defined, but he looked extremely cold. Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun, those two self-righteous idiots, aren't my match even if they work together, Fang Jie said, his tone full of confidence. Then what about that Yi Hao? How confident are you? The first princess opened her sleepy eyes and looked at Fang Jie. The entire hall instantly fell silent. This time, Fang Jie didn't immediately speak. After a while, Fang Jie said, I'm not sure about Yi Hao's strength. I don't dare to speak rashly. Haha, I didn't expect that you, Fang Jie, would have such a lack of confidence. Hearing Fang Jie's words, the first princess didn't blame him. Instead, she laughed. Seeing the first princess laugh, Fang Jie didn't say anything. Instead, he continued to stand in place, motionless, and his expression didn't change at all. According to my understanding, that kid's strength should only be around the first or second level of the demon venerate. Even if I say that he's a third-level demon venerate, how confident are you, Fang Jie? The first princess looked at Fang Jie and asked again. It's hard to find a match for a third-level demon venerate. A fourth-level demon venerate can put up a fight. Fang Jie said without hesitation, his tone full of confidence. Although Fang Jie's tone was emotionless, Fang Jie's words could be said to be extremely arrogant. Chapter 874. Time passed in a flash. In the blink of an eye, it was time for the Prince Consort competition. The location of the Prince Consort competition was naturally in Tianyuan Imperial City, with countless citizens as witnesses. The competition for the Prince Consort competition was extremely important, so Emperor Tianyuan himself would be there personally. Because of that, countless people were attracted to come and watch the battle. After all, the Princess Consort competition was a grand event. Of course, the competition for the Prince Consort competition also attracted countless young talents. Yi Hao, let's go, Zhao Linger said to Yi Hao in Zhao Linger's bedroom. All right. Yi Hao immediately stood up when he heard Zhao Ling. At the same time, he understood that the competition for the Prince Consort competition was very simple. It was a simple challenge, and the final victor would become the Prince Consort. There is a huge square in Tianyuan Imperial City called Tianyuan Square. At this moment, Tianyuan Square was packed with people. There are quite a lot of people. Yi Hao looked at the crowd. There were at least a few 100,000 people in the square. He couldn't help but be surprised. The Prince Consort competition was far more attractive than he had imagined. Is that the third princess? Yeah. Why is there a man beside the third princess? Yeah. Isn't this the Prince Consort competition for the third princess? Look at that man's relationship. He doesn't seem to be ordinary. As Yi Hao followed Zhao Linger out of the palace, he naturally attracted the attention of countless people. At this moment, most people's attention was on Yi Hao. Zhao Linger was the focus of this Prince Consort competition. After all, this was the Prince Consort competition for Zhao Linger. At this moment, there was a man beside Zhao Linger. It was impossible for Yi Hao not to attract attention. Big brother, is that Yi Hao? One of the two people standing in the crowd suddenly asked. These two people were naturally Zhang Tian and Zhang Yan. Hearing Zhang Yan's words, Zhang Tian also looked at Yi Hao and nodded. It should be him. Big brother, wait for me. I'll go find this brat. Suddenly, Zhang Yan looked at Yi Hao, a sinister smile on his face. What are you doing? Second brother, don't mess around. Hearing Zhang Yan's words, Zhang Tian immediately said anxiously, Don't worry, big brother. Just wait and see. Zhang Yan walked in front of Zhao Ling and bowed respectfully. I pay my respects to third princess. When did third princess take in a new eunuch? However, when Zhang Yan looked at Yi Hao, his eyes revealed a hint of disdain. Hearing Zhang Yan's words, Yi Hao could not help but frown. Because with a single glance, he knew that this Zhang Yan had come to look for trouble. Furthermore, the first thing he did was to call him a eunuch. This was completely to humiliate him. Looking at the two of them, Yi Hao guessed that these two should be the second princess's two brothers, Zhang Tian and Zhang Yan. And these two people were the hot favorites in the competition for the position of the emperor's son-in-law. If it were 2 months ago, Yi Hao might have thought that he was not a match for these two. But now, even if the two of them attacked together, he could easily defeat them. Where did this mad dog come from? Barking here? Yi Hao looked at Zhang Yan and said. Zhang Yan did not expect that he would call Yi Hao a eunuch to humiliate Yi Hao. You're courting death. But he never expected that Yi Hao would turn around and call him a mad dog. Enough. Do you want to mess around in front of me? If you don't want to participate in the competition, then leave. Xiaoling, Er's gaze turned cold as she looked at Zhang Yun and shouted unhappily, "Your Highness, please forgive us." Zhang Tan hurriedly said when he saw Xiaoling Er's anger. After all, if Xiaoling disqualified Zhang Yun here, the gains would not make up for the losses. Zhang Yun, hurry up and apologize to Her Highness. Zhang Tian immediately gave Zhang Yun a look. At this moment, Zhang Yun was filled with anger because of Yi Hao's words, but he could not vent it. When he heard Zhang Tian's words, he could only say unwillingly, "This lowly one said the wrong thing. Your Highness, please forgive me." Scram. Xiaoling finished speaking and let Yi Hao leave. Looking at Xiaoling and Yi Hao's backs, Zhang Yun gritted his teeth and said, B*TCH, B*TCH. Just you wait. When the time comes, you'll suffer. Zhang Yun clenched his fists. At this moment, he wanted nothing more than to kill Yi Hao with a single punch. What? The two of you suffered at the hands of that brat. Just as the two of them were looking at Xiaoling, and Yi Hao's backs, a voice suddenly rang out. Hearing this voice, Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun immediately turned around and said, "Greetings, second princess. You don't look too good." The second princess looked at the two of them and continued speaking. "Thank you for your concern, second princess. The two of us have never been wronged. The two of us will definitely repay the humiliation that brat gave us in double," Zhang Tian said. "Then today, this princess will broaden my horizons and watch the two of you perform." The second princess said with a smile, "Hey, isn't this second imperial sister? Why are you reprimanding your subordinates here?" At this moment, the eldest princess's voice suddenly rang out. "Haha, eldest sister, you must be joking." The second princess immediately responded with a smile. "All right, today is the third imperial sister's big day. Let's not stand here," the eldest princess said. "Who is this young master?" The eldest princess brought her subordinates and walked in front of the third princess. The eldest princess looked at Yi Hao and smiled. "He's here to participate in the prince consort competition. Who else could he be?" Yi Hao didn't stand on ceremony when he heard the eldest princess's words. Hearing Yi Hao's words, a guard behind the eldest princess pointed at Xia Haoshuan and shouted, "How dare you be so impudent in front of the eldest princess and speak so disrespectfully? Then who allowed you to be so impudent in front of me?" Seeing the guard's expression, Yi Hao couldn't help but look at the guard. "If you apologize now, perhaps I can spare your life." "Haha, apologize? In your dreams. Who do you think you are?" The guard couldn't help but laugh coldly when he heard Yi Hao's words. "Is that so? Then this token, you say, what kind of thing is it?" Yi Hao took out the silver dragon token and said, "Silver dragon token." The guard's expression changed when he saw the silver dragon token in Yi Hao's hand. One had to know that with the silver dragon token, one had the power to kill. In other words, Yi Hao could kill him at any time, and he didn't have any way to do so. The guard couldn't understand how Yi Hao could have the silver dragon token. At this moment, the guard couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. He looked at the eldest princess as if asking for help. When the eldest princess saw the silver dragon token in Yi Hao's hand, her expression also changed. Clearly, she didn't know that Yi Hao had the silver dragon token. Chapter 875. Hearing what the eldest princess said, the guard gritted his teeth and said, "I'm sorry, young master. It's too late." As soon as Yi Hao finished speaking, Yi Hao's body flashed, and he threw out a punch. A powerful force was generated and the guard was sent flying. Puff! The guard fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. He was dead. Xiaoling saw Yi Hao's action and did not say anything, because these people had come to find trouble with Yi Hao one after another today. She could not stand it anymore. Yi Hao's method of intimidating the crowd was not wrong in her opinion. Moreover, Yi Hao had only killed a guard, an insignificant person. Xiaoling did not see any harm in killing him. Most importantly, this person was one of the eldest princess's men. It was a good opportunity to reduce the eldest princess's arrogance. "Who is that person?" How dare he kill someone here? That guy must be tired of living. The person he killed is one of the eldest princess's men. It can't be. Who is so bold to kill one of the eldest princess's men? Let's not talk about who he is. If he dares to kill someone here, he must not be an ordinary person. When the crowd saw Yi Hao make his move and saw the corpse on the ground, they could not help but look at Yi Hao in shock. Ha! This bastard killed one of the eldest princess's men. This bastard is in for a treat. Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun sneered when they saw Yi Hao kill the eldest princess's men. Although the second princess did not say anything, she was prepared to watch a good show. When the eldest princess saw the corpse on the ground, she frowned and her face turned pale. What a joke. Yi Hao had killed one of her guards in front of everyone. He was not giving her any face. This was a slap to her face. Young master, isn't it too much to kill someone? The eldest princess looked at Yi Hao and asked coldly. Swish, swish, swish. As soon as the eldest princess finished speaking, all the guards behind her took out their weapons and were ready to attack. What? First princess, are you going to fight? Yi Hao looked at the first princess and sneered. Yi Hao had the silver dragon medallion. He believed that the eldest princess would not dare to do anything to him here. The eldest princess looked at Yi Hao for a while. Seeing the confidence on Yi Hao's face, her originally ashen face became lazy again. Haha, young master has the silver dragon token and killed a small guard. Why would I attack young master? As a princess, she knew the importance of a silver dragon badge. If this was in private, even if Yi Hao had the silver dragon token, she would kill Yi Hao at all costs. However, no matter how much she wanted to kill Yi Hao in public, she could not ignore the silver dragon medallion. I hope the princess will succeed and bring back the beauty. After the eldest princess finished speaking, she lazily left. You won't blame me, right? Yi Hao looked at Zhao Ling and asked, Why would I? You did very well. However, you and I are on the same boat now. It's too late for regrets, Zhao Ling said with a smile. After all, Yi Hao did not give the eldest princess any face and killed her guard. With the eldest princess's personality, she would definitely not let Yi Hao off. As for the second princess, needless to say, she had sent people to assassinate Yi Hao many times. Therefore, it was almost impossible for Yi Hao to reconcile with the eldest princess or the second princess at this moment. However, Yi Hao did not care about this. He was helping Zhao Ling in the first place, so he naturally had to be enemies with the eldest princess and the second princess. The reason why he killed the eldest princess's guard was not because he wanted to see the eldest princess's attitude, but because he wanted to see how Zhao Ling was doing. If Zhao Ling's attitude did not satisfy him, he would not help Zhao Ling. Fortunately, he was satisfied with Zhao Ling's attitude. The onlookers were all stunned when they saw this scene. They all thought that after Yi Hao killed the eldest princess's guard, the eldest princess would definitely teach Yi Hao a lesson. However, to their surprise, the eldest princess did not do anything and let Yi Hao off just like that. Crack, crack, crack. At this moment, the sound of a whip was suddenly heard. Although it was just the sound of a whip, it was as deafening as the thunder from the ninth heaven. The emperor has arrived. At the same time, a shout was heard. Everyone immediately looked at the exit of Tianyuan Palace and saw a group of people rushing out in a grandiose manner. In front of them were rows of imposing guards. In the middle of the imperial carriage was Emperor Tianyuan. When the crowd saw Emperor Tianyuan appear, they immediately bowed and saluted him. Yi Hao looked in the direction of Emperor Tianyuan and did not have any intention of saluting. After all, he and Emperor Tianyuan only had a cooperative relationship. He was not his subordinate. Many people, seeing that Yi Hao actually did not salute, could not help sucking in a breath of cold air. However, what shocked them even more was that Emperor Tianyuan did not care. You may rise. Emperor Tianyuan's dignified voice was heard. Today is the third princess's prince consort competition. I'm very pleased to see all of you here, Emperor Tianyuan said from his imperial carriage. This was the opening speech of the prince consort competition. The citizens of Tianyuan Kingdom were all fired up when they heard this. They all looked at Emperor Tianyuan, unwilling to move their eyes away. After all, Most of them would never be able to see the emperor in their entire lives. At this moment, Emperor Tianyuan was right in front of them. They all wanted to take a second look at the Emperor Tianyuan. After all, to be able to see the emperor was a blessing of 3 lifetimes in their hearts. I announced that the Prince Consort competition has begun. All contestants, please enter the arena. Emperor Tianyuan's voice fell. Many young talents began to flock to the arena in the middle of the square. I will go first, Yihao said to Zhao Ling, and walked toward the arena. Be careful, Zhao Ling, who did not forget to remind him. At this moment, the most nervous person was Zhao Ling. After all, this was related to her life. Dog, don't fall into my hands. Otherwise, you will die a horrible death. Zhang Yun's voice rang out the moment Yihao stepped onto the arena. Yihao was not moved by Zhang Yun's words at all. When the time came, all he needed to do was to beat him to the ground. No matter how much nonsense he said to Zhang Yun now, it was useless. Zhang Yun did not expect that Yihao would dare to ignore him. In his heart, he wanted to kill Yihao even more. Yihao, on the other hand, felt a sharp gaze on him as he stood in the arena. Yihao looked over and saw a young man with a long sword on his back. This person had been standing beside the first princess since the beginning. Chapter 876. Yihao saw that Feng Jie only glanced at him and then looked away. He did not say anything to provoke him. You are indeed extraordinary. Although they were opponents, Yihao could not help but look at Feng Jie approvingly. Then, an old man who looked like a eunuch walked out and announced the rules to the crowd. There were 10 alleys in Tianyuan Royal City that led to the outskirts of Tianyuan Royal City. These alleys were not connected to each other. At this moment, the alleys had been cleared. There was no one in them. Yihao and the others would be divided into 10 groups and enter the alleys separately. In these 10 alleys, all the participants of the competition could kill each other. Moreover, the Emperor of Sky Yuan had set up some traps in these 10 alleys. It would not be easy to break through these alleys. Most importantly, only the champion of each of the 10 alleys would be able to enter the next round of the competition. This was the princess of Tianyuan Kingdom. There were at least 1,000 people participating in the Prince Consort selection competition. In the first round, 9 of the disciples would be eliminated. It was a cruel competition. All right, everyone has heard the rules. Now, follow the name list and enter your alleys. I wish you good luck. After the eunuch finished speaking, the crowd began to enter the alleys. Yihao looked at his name list and saw that he was in the 8th alley. Yihao glanced at the name list and saw that it was filled with nameless people. Of course, not all of them were nameless people. After all, those who were able to participate in the Prince Consort selection competition were the most talented people in Tianyuan Kingdom. There were also some nameless, itinerant cultivators. If these people were able to participate in the Prince Consort selection competition, it meant that they were very confident in their own abilities. However, Yihao really did not know these people. Bastard, consider yourself lucky. Before Yihao entered the alley, Zhang Yun's voice came from the side. After Zhang Yun finished speaking, he stepped into the 7th alley. What a pity that I can't kill you with my own hands. Zhang Tian's voice rang out as he stepped into the 10th alley. Seeing that almost everyone had entered the alley, Yihao did not stand there foolishly. He also stepped into the 8th alley. After all, only the first person to reach the outskirts of the Sky Origin Royal City would be able to proceed to the next round. If there was even the slightest mistake and someone else got out of the alley first, then he would be eliminated. Therefore, time was precious, and even he did not dare to be careless. Yihao stood in the middle of the alley, but he couldn't see the end of it. On both sides of the alley were tall stone walls. These alleys were specially built to protect the Sky Origin Imperial City. The purpose of these alleys was to be used for street battles. Moreover, under normal circumstances, these alleys would definitely not be opened easily. However, this time, Emperor Tianyuan was willing to open 10 alleys just to choose a prince consort for Zhao Ling. This showed how much Emperor Tianyuan doted on Zhao Ling. Even the first and second princesses couldn't help but look at Zhao Ling with jealousy. After all, when they were choosing a prince consort, they didn't make such a big fuss. There were many ways to choose a prince consort. Emperor Tianyuan was willing to open 10 alleys just to kick out some unqualified people. This was something that they never expected. Yi Hao looked at the seemingly endless alleys and began to move forward quickly. Whoosh! At this moment, a silver light shot towards Yi Hao's head. It was the person in front of Yi Hao. When he saw that Yi Hao was about to catch up to him, he couldn't help but use a hidden weapon to kill Yi Hao. Courting death. Yi Hao hated people like this the most. He didn't provoke the other party, but the other party came to provoke him. Clang, clang. As Yi Hao dodged in time, the dart hit the wall behind Yi Hao and made a crisp sound. Yi Hao took a big stride forward and threw a punch at the young man who was attacking him without hesitation. Don't! The young man didn't expect that he wouldn't succeed in using a hidden weapon on Yi Hao. At this moment, he saw Yi Hao's fist coming towards him with a strong force. The young man's expression changed again and again. He wanted to beg for mercy, because when he saw Yi Hao attack, he knew that he was no match for Yi Hao. But at this moment, Yi Hao's fist had already landed on his body. The young man screamed in pain and was sent flying. Yi Hao didn't attack the young man again and continued to move forward. On the other hand, the young man was lying on the ground, moaning in pain. He couldn't stand up anymore, which meant that he had been eliminated. This 8th street belongs to our young Master Wu. If you don't want to die, stand here and wait for young Master Wu to win. Before Yi Hao could walk back, he heard a commotion in front of him. Who is this young Master Wu? I heard that this young Master Wu is the grandson of a second-rank official in Tianyuan Kingdom. We can't afford to offend him. This young Master Wu is too much. Yi Hao looked at the crowd that was squeezed together and started discussing with dissatisfaction. I didn't expect to meet another good-for-nothing. Yi Hao couldn't be bothered with them and continued to walk forward. After all, he didn't even care about the princess, let alone the grandson of a second-rank official. Hey, brother, don't walk forward. That's right. If you continue to walk forward and get caught by young Master Wu, you'll suffer. That's right. A few of them didn't listen to us and are now half dead. When the crowd saw Yi Hao, they immediately tried to persuade Yi Hao. However, Yi Hao was unmoved by their words and continued to walk forward. Even though most of these people had spoken to him out of goodwill, he was still able to tell that they were speaking to him out of goodwill. However, he couldn't give up the chance to compete for the position of the emperor's son-in-law because of young Master Wu. It seemed that young Master Wu was no longer here. Therefore, Yi Hao was a little anxious. You don't want to live anymore. If you take another step forward, I'll kill you. Trash, get back quickly. Be careful not to provoke young Master Wu. He'll destroy your family. Seeing Yi Hao continue to walk forward, the people arranged by young Master Wu couldn't help but threaten him. Die. Yi Hao punched out, killing one of them with a single punch. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for killing a rank 8 demon emperor. Congratulations to the host for gaining experience points. Everyone was stunned when they saw Yi Hao's action. Who is he? How dare he kill young Master Wu's people? This person is so powerful. He killed a rank 8 demon emperor with a punch. Chapter 877. Do you know whose men you kill? How dare you kill young Master Wu's men? I wonder how many lives you have. Boy, you're really digging your own grave? When young Master Wu's men saw that Yi Hao had killed their men, some of them had a trace of fear on their faces while some of them sneered. Noisy. Hearing these people's words, Yi Hao didn't even look at them and threw a few punches at them. Bang, 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 ding dong. Congratulations to the host for killing a rank 7 demon emperor warrior. Congratulations to the host for gaining experience. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for killing a rank 8 demon emperor warrior. Congratulations to the host for gaining experience. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for killing a rank 9 demon emperor warrior. Congratulations to the host for gaining experience. Several people were sent flying in succession. Young Master Wu's men were completely flustered. This boy is crazy. Brothers, run. Obviously, they didn't expect Yi Hao to be so bold as to kill them. At this moment, the remaining few people immediately began to run, because they had no doubt that Yi Hao would kill them. At this moment, It was more important to run for their lives. Wind stepped. Yi Hao immediately chased after them. After Yi Hao left, only a few corpses and the people who broke into the alley were left behind. They stood there in shock. Because these people knew young Master Wu's identity, none of them dared to provoke him. But what they didn't expect was that Yi Hao would be so bold as to start killing young Master Wu's men without saying a word. At this moment, everyone stood in place. They didn't know whether to move forward or stand still. For a moment, they didn't know what to do. Didn't I ask you to watch? What are you doing here? Because his men were guarding the alley, young Master Wu wasn't worried at all. Therefore, young Master Wu was not worried at all. He walked unhurriedly in the alley. One must know that the list of people who broke into the alley this time was mostly due to his grandfather's credit. Otherwise, he wouldn't have brought so many men into the 8th alley. However, when Wu Jiao heard the commotion behind him, he immediately turned around. When he saw that it was his subordinates, he could not help but sigh in relief. "Young master, why haven't you come out of the alley yet?" Everyone was stunned when they saw Wu Jiao and asked anxiously. They had thought that Wu Mo had left long ago. That was why they dared to bring Yi Hao here. However, they had never imagined that Wu Jiao would still be leisurely wandering around the alley. This caused them to panic. After all, their mission was to help Wu Jiao win first place in the 8th alley. What's wrong? What happened? Wu Jiao knew that these people would not normally act like this. Thus, he could not help but ask, "Young master, please leave first." There's no time to explain this matter. A guard immediately said to Wu Jiao, "Hurry up and tell me what's going on." The more the guard acted like this, the more Wu Jiao couldn't hold back his curiosity. He couldn't help but ask. Seeing Wu Jiao's unyielding attitude, the guard had no choice but to say, "Young master, someone killed one of our men." What? Who will be so bold? Wu Jiao was furious when he heard the guard's words. How dare he kill one of my men? That's not giving me any face at all. What a troublemaker. Wu Jiao looked displeased. "Young master, this person is quite powerful. I'm afraid that he will go berserk and hurt you. Young master, you should leave first and let the Lord deal with this person later." One of the guards hurriedly tried to dissuade him. Wu Jiao looked at the anxious faces of the guards. He knew that the situation was urgent and that there was no room for jokes. Thus, he immediately agreed. In his heart, he had already sentenced Yi Hao to death. However, in his opinion, it would not be too late to kill Yi Hao after they left. "Let's go." With that, Wu Jiao turned to leave with his men. "Go? Where to?" Just as Wu Jiao was about to leave with his men, Yi Hao's voice was suddenly heard. Everyone stopped in their tracks when they heard Yi Hao's voice. They all looked nervously at Yi Hao. "Who are you?" Wu Jiao couldn't help but ask as he looked at Yi Hao. "Get out of my way or die," Yi Hao said coldly as he looked at Wu Jiao. He couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense. However, Yi Hao also heaved a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that Wu Jiao had already left and that Wu Jiao would be the champion of the 8th alley. If that was really the case, things would be very troublesome. Fortunately, Wu Jiao hadn't left yet. Ha ha ha. Wu Jiao looked as though he had heard the funniest joke when he heard Yi Hao's words. Ever since he was born, he had always been the one speaking arrogantly to others. No one had ever dared to speak to him in such an arrogant manner. Wu Jiao narrowed his eyes and sneered at Yi Hao. "Do you know who I am? My grandfather is an important official of the Tianyuan kingdom, a second-rank official." When Wu Jiao saw that Yi Hao didn't say anything, he assumed that Yi Hao had been frightened by him. Thus, he put on an arrogant expression again. "So, do you still dare to kill me? Kid, I'll give you a chance. You killed my subordinate. If you kneel down and beg me for mercy now, I might spare your life." When they heard Wu Jiao's voice, the fear in the subordinates' hearts gradually disappeared. They didn't believe that Yi Hao would dare to kill Wu Jiao. If he killed Wu Jiao, he would become an enemy of a second-rank official of the Tianyuan kingdom. "Since you all have a death wish, I'll naturally grant your wish." Yi Hao hadn't expected that Wu Jiao would be so reckless. The guards had also forgotten how pathetic they had been when they had tried to escape. 10,000 Beast Spiritual Fire. Yi Hao summoned the 10,000 beasts spiritual fire. What? When they heard Yi Hao's words, they were all stunned again. They were afraid that they had misheard. When they saw the 10,000 beast spiritual fire appear, their expressions changed. You can't kill me, Wu Jiao roared crazily. When he saw Yi Hao's 10,000 beast spiritual fire, fear appeared on Wu Jiao's face. Wu Jiao could sense a dangerous aura from the 10,000 beast spiritual fire. He had no doubt that the 10,000 beast spiritual fire could kill him. However, he still found it difficult to accept that Yi Hao actually dared to disregard his grandfather's status and try to kill him. If you kill me, my grandfather will definitely exterminate your entire clan. Wu Jiao roared crazily. He was trying to threaten Yi Hao to stop. However, threats only served to infuriate Yi Hao even more. Yi Hao directly threw the 10,000 beast spiritual fire at Wu Jiao. No, all of you save me, Wu Jiao shouted to his subordinates as he fled in panic. Wu Jiao's subordinates all turned pale. They didn't know what to do. Chapter 878. Yes, young master. Hearing Wu Jia's order, Wu Jia's remaining subordinates immediately attacked the 10,000 beast spirit fire. The crowd's attacks landed on the 10,000 beast spirit fire. Boom! The instant the crowd's attacks landed on the 10,000 beast spirit fire, the entire 10,000 beast spirit fire exploded. However, contrary to their expectations, the 10,000 beast spirit fire did not extinguish. Instead, it turned into several balls of flames and attacked them. What the hell is this? This is bad. Brothers, run. Young master, run. Seeing the 10,000 beast spirit fire instantly turned into several balls of flames, the crowd's expressions turned ugly. One by one, they fled in all directions. However, the 10,000 beast spirit fire still landed on their bodies. Oh no, it's burning me to death. Spare me. Why can't this flame be extinguished? When the 10,000 beast spirit fire landed on the crowd's bodies, the 10,000 beast spirit fire immediately started burning. Unable to extinguish the flames, the crowd shouted anxiously. Bastard, if you don't want to die, quickly extinguish the flames on my body. Wu Jia looked at Yi Hao and shouted anxiously. After a long time, Wu Jia discovered that Yi Hao was completely unmoved by his threat. I beg of you, please let me go. At that time, I will definitely have my grandfather thank you. Didn't you want first place? I'll yield to you. At that moment, Wu Jia finally realized how frightening death was. He had never imagined that there would be a day when death would be so close to him. Wu Jia had no choice but to loudly beg for mercy. At that moment, his status and dignity were all tossed to the back of his mind. At that moment, he only knew that survival was the most important thing. When Wu Jia's subordinates saw Wu Jia in such a state, they were all unable to hold on any longer. One by one, they all knelt before Yi Hao and begged for mercy. Yi Hao remained unmoved by their pleas. After all, the enmity had already been settled. Even if he were to let Wu Jia go, Wu Jia would definitely not leave the matter at that. Thus, since that was the case, he might as well kill Wu Jia first. Yi Hao continued walking forward, leaving behind a group of people who were still burning. There are actually quite a few arrays up ahead. After walking for a while, Yi Hao suddenly stopped and looked at the alley in front of him. Because of the buried king's secret realm, he had comprehended many formations, although he did not learn them. However, he could still see the array formation in front of him. Looks like we have no choice but to force our way through. Yi Hao looked at the formation in front of him and made up his mind. Thinking of this, Yi Hao could not help but step into the array formation. Boom! Yi Hao had just stepped into the array when he felt the lightning flashing and thunder rumbling. Crack! Following that, a thunderous sound rang out and a bolt of lightning struck towards him. It's actually an offensive array formation. Yi Hao looked at the lightning that was striking towards him and immediately dodged to the side. At the same time, Yi Hao's mind was not idle either. Instead, he extended his consciousness into the system space. He checked to see if there were any similar formations that he had obtained from the buried king's secret realm. As Yi Hao checked, he dodged everywhere. Through his observation of the array formation, he found that the power of the array formation was indeed not weak. It could even pose a threat to him. Therefore, he must not be hit by the lightning. Otherwise, he would not have a good result. Small thunder array. Yi Hao soon saw an array formation. After comparing the two, Yi Hao found that the array formation here was really the small thunder array. However, the small thunder array in this alley seemed to be an incomplete version. It did not display the full power of the small thunder array at all, because according to the normal power of the small thunder array, Yi Hao would not be able to dodge so easily when he entered here first. Even if he was not hit, he would have to dodge in a sorry state. Moreover, the complete version of the small thunder array could kill a peak demon venerable powerhouse without any problem. However, this small thunder array could probably only kill a martial artist below the peak of the demon emperor. It could not pose much of a threat to a demon venerable. Yi Hao looked at the structure of the small thunder array and soon found the exit of the small thunder array. So it's here. Yi Hao saw the exit of the small thunder array and could not help but feel delighted. He immediately walked over. Yi Hao took a step forward and the sound of lightning and thunder disappeared. He also walked out of the small thunder array completely. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. However, at this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air was heard. It's not over yet. There are still hidden weapons. Yi Hao reacted instantly and could not help but curse. Raining sword. Yi Hao immediately took out his weapon and began to attack the hidden weapons. Yi Hao used the raining sword to form a martial technique that blocked all the hidden weapons in an instant. Clang, 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 clang. There was no other sound in the alley except for the sound of weapons colliding with hidden weapons. Yi Hao moved forward while blocking the hidden weapons that were shooting at him. Yi Hao walked for almost 100 meters before there were no more hidden weapons shooting at him. Phew! Seeing that there were no more hidden weapons, Yi Hao could not help but let out a sigh of relief. Lord Wu, you are in a good mood today. Wu Suo could not help but smile as he looked at the 8th alley. This was because Wu Jiao in the 8th alley was his grandson. He had already made arrangements in the 8th alley. Therefore, if nothing went wrong, his grandson, Wu Jiao, would definitely be the champion of the 8th alley. As long as Wu Jiao was the champion, there was a possibility that he would become the emperor's son-in-law. If Wu Jiao could become the emperor's son-in-law, then the Wu family's status and his would definitely increase greatly in the Tianyuan kingdom. One must know that he had been preparing for this day for a long time. You still don't know. Lord Wu's grandson, Wu Jiao, is in the 8th alley. What? I did not expect Lord Wu's grandson to be interested in the competition for the position of the emperor's son-in-law. Haha, I have long heard that young Master Wu is quite talented. It seems that young Master Wu will be the champion of the 8th alley. Haha, isn't that obvious? Look at Lord Wu's smile. You should know that young Master Wu will be the champion of the 8th alley. Many people stood behind Wu Suo and began to flatter him. Haha, don't say that, everyone. There are so many young talents participating in the emperor's son-in-law competition. My grandson's strength is not outstanding. Wu Suo believed that Wu Jiao would be the champion of the 8th alley. After all, he was very confident in his own identity. He did not believe that anyone would dare to offend Wu Jiao after he revealed his identity in the 8th alley. If he were to offend Wu Jia, it would be no different from offending himself. Moreover, he had sent Wu Jiao to the 8th alley. With so many subordinates, it would be fate if Wu Jiao did not get the champion of the 8th alley. Chapter 879. Change it immediately. Brothers, let's see tomorrow. Yes, young master. Hearing Wu Jia's order, Wu Jia's remaining subordinates immediately attacked the 10,000 beast spirit fire. Everyone's attacks landed on the 10,000 beast spirit fire. Boom! At the moment when the crowd's attacks landed on the 10,000 beast spirit fire, the entire 10,000 beast spirit fire exploded. However, contrary to their expectations, the 10,000 beast spirit fire did not extinguish. Instead, it turned into several balls of flames and attacked them. This What the hell is this? This is bad. Brothers, run. Young master, run. Seeing the 10,000 bee spirit fire instantly turn into several balls of flames, everyone's expressions turned ugly. One by one, they began to flee in all directions. However, the 10,000 bee spirit fire still landed on their bodies. Oh no, it's burning me to death. Spare me. Why can't this flame be extinguished? When the 10,000 bee spirit fire landed on their bodies, the 10,000 bee spirit fire immediately started burning. Unable to extinguish the flames, the crowd shouted anxiously, "Bastard, if you don't want to die, quickly extinguish the flames on my body." Wu Jia looked at Yi Hao and shouted anxiously. After a long time, Wu Jia discovered that Yi Hao was completely unmoved by his threat. I beg of you, please let me go. When the time comes, I will definitely have my grandfather thank you. Didn't you want to be first? I'll let you be first. At this moment, Wu Jia finally realized how frightening death was. He had never imagined that there would be a day when death would be so close to him. Wu Jia had no choice but to loudly beg for mercy. At this moment, his status and dignity were all tossed to the back of his mind. At this moment, he only knew that survival was the most important thing. When Wu Jia's subordinates saw Wu Jia in such a state, they were all unable to hold on any longer. One by one, they knelt before Yi Hao and begged for mercy. Yi Hao remained unmoved by their pleas. After all, the enmity had already been settled. Even if he were to let Wu Jia go, Wu Jia would definitely not leave the matter at that. Since that was the case, he might as well kill Wu Jia ahead of time. Yi Hao continued walking forward, leaving behind a group of people who were still burning. There are actually quite a few arrays up ahead. After walking for a while, Yi Hao suddenly stopped and looked at the alley in front of him. Because of the buried king's secret realm, he had comprehended many formations, although he did not learn them. However, he could still see the array formation in front of him. Looks like we have no choice but to force our way through. Yi Hao looked at the formation in front of him and made up his mind. Thinking of this, Yi Hao could not help but step into the array formation. Boom! The moment Yi Hao stepped into the array, he could feel the thunder and lightning. Crack! Following that, a thunderous sound rang out and a bolt of lightning struck towards him. It's actually an offensive array formation. Yi Hao looked at the lightning that was striking towards him and immediately dodged to the side. At the same time, Yi Hao's consciousness was not idle either. Instead, he extended his consciousness into the system space. He checked to see if there were any similar formations that he had obtained from the buried king's secret realm. As Yi Hao checked, he dodged everywhere. Through his observation of the array formation, he found that the power of the array formation was indeed not weak. It could even pose a threat to him. Therefore, he must not be hit by the lightning. Otherwise, he would not have a good result. Small thunder array. Yi Hao soon saw an array formation. After comparing the two, Yi Hao found that the array formation here was really the small thunder array. However, the small thunder array in this alley seemed to be an incomplete version. It did not display the full power of the small thunder array at all. Because if it was based on the normal power of the small thunder array, Yi Hao would not be able to dodge so easily when he entered here first. Even if he was not hit, he would have to dodge in a sorry state. Moreover, the complete version of the small thunder array could kill a peak demon venerable expert without any problem. However, this small thunder array could only kill martial artists below the peak demon emperor level. It could not pose much of a threat to demon venerables at all. Yi Hao looked at the structure of the small thunder array and soon found the exit of the small thunder array. So it's here. Yi Hao saw the exit of the small thunder array and could not help but feel delighted. He immediately walked over. Yi Hao took a step forward and the sound of lightning and thunder disappeared. He also walked out of the small thunder array completely. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. However, at this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. It's not over yet. There are still hidden weapons. Yi Hao reacted instantly and could not help but curse angrily. Sweeping rain sword. Yi Hao immediately took out his weapon and began to attack the hidden weapons. Yi Hao used the sweeping rain sword to form a martial technique that blocked all the hidden weapons in an instant. Clang, clang, clang. There was no other sound in the alley except for the sound of weapons colliding with hidden weapons. Yi Hao moved forward while blocking the hidden weapons that were shooting at him. Yi Hao walked for almost 100 meters before there were no more hidden weapons shooting at him. Phew! Seeing that there were no more hidden weapons, Yi Hao could not help but let out a sigh of relief. Lord Wu, you're in a good mood today. At this moment, Wu Suo could not help but smile as he looked at the 8th alley. This was because Wu Jiao in the 8th alley was his grandson. He had already made arrangements in the 8th alley. Therefore, if nothing went wrong, his grandson, Wu Jiao, would definitely be the champion of the 8th alley. As long as Wu Jiao was the champion, there was a possibility that he would become the emperor's son-in-law. If Wu Jiao could become the emperor's son-in-law, then the status of the Wu family and his own in the Tianyuan kingdom would definitely increase greatly. One must know that he had been preparing for this day for a long time. You still don't know? Lord Wu's grandson, Wu Jiao, is in the 8th alley. What? I did not expect Lord Wu's grandson to be interested in the competition for the position of the emperor's son-in-law. Haha, I have long heard that young Master Wu is quite talented. Looks like the champion of the 8th alley is none other than young Master Wu. Haha, isn't that obvious? Look at Lord Wu's smile. You should know that the champion of the 8th alley is none other than young Master Wu. Many people stood behind Wu Suo and began to flatter him. Haha, everyone don't say that. There are so many young talents participating in the emperor's son-in-law competition. My grandson's strength is not outstanding. Wu Suo believed that the champion of the 8th alley was none other than himself. After all, he was very confident in his own identity. He did not believe that anyone would dare to offend Wu Jiao after he revealed his identity in the 8th alley. If anyone offended Wu Jiao, it would be no different from offending himself. Moreover, he had sent so many subordinates to the 8th alley for Wu Jiao. Chapter 880. Right at that moment, a guard shouted loudly, "The champion of the 8th alley has appeared. All remaining contestants, please leave the 8th alley." Once the guard's voice was heard, a group of people began to leave the 8th alley in a single file. They were also very curious as to who exactly would obtain the champion. Would it be Wu Jiao or the young man who wasn't afraid of Wu Jiao? Wu Suo's gaze was fixed on the 8th alley's exit. He watched as more and more people walked out. However, he did not see Wu Jiao or any of the guards he had assigned to Wu Jiao. Wu Suo grew more and more anxious. He couldn't have killed Wu Jiao, right? The second princess's attention was also fixed on the 8th alley's exit. When she saw Wu Suo's anxious expression, she suddenly thought of a terrifying possibility. However, when she thought of this possibility, the second princess couldn't help but sneer in her heart. She looked at Yi Hao and said, "I truly hope that you can kill Wu Jiao." Unsurprisingly, if Wu Jiao was killed, Wu Suo would definitely not let Yi Hao off. He would directly kill Yi Hao. That was exactly what she wanted to see. Wu Suo's expression grew even more unsightly. The anxiety on his face grew even more intense. After waiting for a long time, when no one came out of the 8th alley, Wu Suo was immediately enraged. He immediately rushed toward the 8th alley. Wu Suo ignored the guards and directly entered the 8th alley. When everyone saw Wu Suo's actions, they were all puzzled. What's wrong with Lord Wu? I've never seen him lose his composure like this before. I don't know why Lord Wu rushed into the 8th alley. However, I heard that Lord Wu's grandson entered the 8th alley. Could something have happened to Lord Wu's grandson? What? Who would dare to harm Lord Wu's grandson? When the crowd saw Wu Suo enter the 8th alley, they all began to discuss among themselves. After a short while, under the crowd's confused gazes, Wu Suo rushed out of the 8th alley. His expression was one of extreme anger and grief. Where's my grandson? Why isn't he in the 8th alley? After entering the 8th alley, Wu Suo searched for Wu Jiao for a long time, but was unable to find him. At that moment, he couldn't help but shout angrily. However, How could he have known that Wu Jiao and the others had already been burned to ashes by Yi Hao's 10,000 beast spirit fire? What? Is Lord Wu's grandson not in the 8th alley? As the saying goes, if you're dead, you want to see the person. If you're alive, you want to see the corpse. Even if Lord Wu's grandson was killed, his corpse should still be here. Where did Lord Wu's grandson go? He couldn't have disappeared without a trace. When everyone heard Wu Suo's bellow, they became even more puzzled. He couldn't help but look at the crowd coming out of the 8th alley, but he didn't see Wu Jiao. The people in the 8th street were also puzzled. They hadn't expected Wu Mo to disappear. Previously, they had seen Wu Mo's subordinates stopping them from advancing. However, the one who had disappeared at this moment was actually Wu Jiao. This caused them to feel extremely shocked. Even before they left the 8th alley, many people were still guessing that Wu Jiao might be in first place. After all, they were unable to imagine who would dare to offend Wu Jiao. But there were also many people who thought of Yi Hao. These people were naturally the ones who had seen Yi Hao kill Wu Jiao's subordinates. Of course, there were even more people who were delighted to learn that something might have happened to Wu Jiao. After all, Wu Jiao had stopped them from advancing. He had relied on his status to oppress them. This caused them to feel extremely displeased. Thus, many people were guessing that something might have happened to Wu Jiao. Thus, they were all overjoyed. Never would I have imagined that something would really happen to Wu Jiao. The heavens are truly helping me. Seeing this scene, the second princess was overjoyed. She had originally only been guessing and praying that something would happen to Wu Jiao. Never would she have imagined that something would really happen to Wu Jiao. Something actually happened to Wu Jiao. The first princess naturally knew who Wu Suo was. When she thought of the second princess, she had walked over to Wu Suo with curiosity. However, she immediately started frowning. The reason for that was because she had never imagined that something would happen to Wu Jiao. In other words, she had miscalculated. Wu Suo turned to Yi Hao with a crazed gaze and asked with a fiery temper, "Bastard, tell me, did you do this? Did you kill my grandson?" At that moment, Wu Suo's killing intent was completely exposed. The reason for that was because Wu Suo was his only grandson. Among his children, Wu Suo was also his most beloved grandson. When he thought of how his precious grandson might have died, how could he not be furious? Earlier, when Yi Hao had been the first to come out, he had thought that Yi Hao had stolen Wu Jiao's limelight. Thus, he was determined to take care of Yi Hao. From this, it could be seen how much he doted on Wu Jiao. Thus, when he learned that Wu Jiao might have died, how could he possibly be able to tolerate it? Of course, his anger did not go to his head. Thus, Wu Suo immediately deduced that the person most likely to have killed Wu Jiao would be Yi Hao. After all, Yi Hao was the first person to come out. Thus, Yi Hao was the greatest suspect. Apart from Yi Hao, Wu Suo found it very difficult to imagine who else would be capable of killing Wu Jiao. Seeing Wu Suo's furious shout, Yi Hao was naturally able to guess who it was. That person should be Wu Jiao's grandfather, Wu Jiao's backer, a rank 2 high official in the royal court. Yi Hao did not care about Wu Suo's angry shout at all. Why should he care about a mere rank 2 high official? Before he could say anything, Zhao Ling said, "Lord Wu, you can't speak carelessly. What proof do you have to prove that the person who killed your grandson is Yi Hao?" Wu Suo was immediately choked by Zhao Ling's words. He could not say anything that he wanted to say. Furthermore, this is the prince consort competition. Weapons have no eyes to begin with. Furthermore, there are no rules that state that one cannot lose his life. Even if young Master Wu died in there, it would only be because his skills were inferior. Could it be that Lord Wu is trying to disrupt the competition? Or are you trying to interfere with the competition? For the first time, Zhao Ling's words were forceful. He looked at Wu Suo with an unyielding look in his eyes. Is this still the third princess? Why do I feel that the third princess today seems a little different from before? Who is that man? Why is the third princess so protective of him? The third princess's personality seems to have changed. Hasn't the third princess always been humble and polite? Why would she contradict Lord Wu like this? When the crowd heard Zhao Ling Er's words, they all looked at Zhao Ling Er in disbelief. This was because Zhao Ling Er's current behavior was indeed different from before. His unyielding tone was interrogative. Wu Suo did not dare to say anything after hearing Zhao Ling Er's words. Chapter 881. After all, the host of the competition was Emperor Tianyuan. Even if he had 10 lives, he wouldn't dare to offend Emperor Tianyuan. Therefore, he didn't dare to accept the charge of interfering with or disrupting the competition. However, he didn't expect that Yi Hao would be so important to Zhao Ling. After all, he was a second-rank official in the imperial court and held a lot of weight in the imperial court. The eldest and second princesses were constantly trying to win him over. However, Zhao Ling was actually questioning him on behalf of Yi Hao. Wu Suo was becoming more and more displeased with Zhao Ling If Zhao Ling wasn't Emperor Tianyuan's daughter, he would definitely have attacked and killed both Zhao Ling and Yi Hao. However, there were so many people here, and Emperor Tianyuan was also here. Even if he was extremely displeased, he could only hide it. Wu Suo hid the murderous intent in his eyes and said to Zhao Ling "Your Highness is right. This old official knows his mistake." It's good that you know your mistake." Zhao Ling nodded. She didn't show too much emotion and looked as if it was only natural. After all, she wasn't stupid. Since she had already offended Wu Suo, there was no point in trying to be friendly with him. If that was the case, she might as well not give him any face at all. As expected, Wu Suo gritted his teeth. His face was livid. After all, his grandson was dead and his body hadn't been found yet. This made him heartbroken. Moreover, his enemy was right in front of him, but he couldn't take revenge. This made him feel very uncomfortable. He immediately shifted his furious gaze away from Yi Hao. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to hold himself back and suddenly attack Yi Hao and kill Yi Hao. Although he couldn't kill Yi Hao now, he wouldn't let Yi Hao and Zhao Ling have it easy either. After thinking for a moment, Wu Suo seemed to have come to a decision. He walked up to the second princess. "Second princess, I intend to join your camp, but there is a condition." Wu Suo walked up to the second princess and said with determination. But before he could finish speaking, the second princess replied with a smile. "This princess is naturally overjoyed that Lord Wu has joined this princess camp. As for that Yi Hao, this princess will have him killed. Take it as a greeting gift to official Wu." "Thank you, second princess." Hearing the second princess's words, Wu Suo immediately thanked her. At the same time, he didn't forget to remind her, "Second princess, you must torture that brat to death. Don't worry, this princess will order my men to kill him in the arena. I'll kill him after he's completely humiliated," the second princess continued. "Then this old subject will thank the second princess in advance." Wu Suo glared fiercely at Yi Hao and thanked the second princess. "From now on, we'll be on the same boat." "Lord Wu, you don't have to be so courteous about such a small matter. You really joined the second royal sister's force." Zhao Ling was not surprised to see Wu Suo walking to the second princess's side. On the other hand, the eldest princess frowned. A trace of fear appeared in her heart. This was because compared to Zhao Ling, the eldest princess felt that the second princess was a much more serious threat to her. She had also tried to rope in Wu Suo several times, but Wu Suo had rejected her every time. She had never imagined that Wu Suo would join the second princess's force so easily. The eldest princess glanced at Yi Hao unhappily. This was because without Yi Hao, Wu Suo would not have chosen to join the second princess's camp so early. She might even have had the chance to rope Wu Suo in. One had to know that the support of a second-rank official was extremely useful for the development of one's faction. However, at this moment, everyone recognized Yi Hao. After all, everyone could see that Yi Hao was the person who had the highest chance of killing Wu Jiao. Many people admired Yi Hao's courage. He actually dared to look down on Wu Suo. At this moment, a figure walked out of the third alley. He carried a long sword on his back. There was no doubt that it was Feng Jie. Fang Jie had thought that his speed was already fast enough and that he would definitely be the fastest person in all the alleys. However, when he saw the crowd in front of the 8th alley, he couldn't help but frown. He hadn't expected that there would be someone who was even faster than him. Could it be that trash Wu Jiao? Fang Jie couldn't help but think of Wu Jiao. At the same time, a look of disdain flashed across his face. However, when he scanned the crowd and didn't see Wu Jiao, he couldn't help but frown again. Fang Jie's face was cold as he strode over to the eldest princess. After bowing slightly, he asked, "Eldest princess, may I ask if the number 1 person in the 8th alley is Wu Jiao?" The eldest princess couldn't help but feel satisfied when she saw that Fang Jie was the second person to walk out. However, when she heard Fang Jie's question, she couldn't help but look at Yi Hao. "Is the number 1 person in the 8th alley? What?" Fang Jie couldn't help but have a look of disbelief when he followed the eldest princess's gaze. However, when Fang Jie glanced at Yi Hao, his eyes were filled with fighting spirit. Perhaps he will be a worthy opponent. After a short while, 2 figures walked out of the 7th and 10th alleys. These 2 figures were naturally Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun. At this moment, both of them had smug looks on their faces. In their opinion, with their speed, they would definitely be in the top 3. However, when they saw that the people in the 3rd and 8th alleys had walked out, they couldn't believe it. When they heard that Fang Jie was the second person to pass the 3rd alley, they were somewhat surprised. After all, if Fang Jie was the first person to walk out, they could barely accept it. However, they never expected Fang Jie to be the second person to walk out. Didn't that mean that their speed could only be ranked 3rd or 4th? When they found out that the number 1 person in the 8th alley was Yi Hao, they all forcibly resisted the urge to vomit blood. How is this possible? How is it possible that this brat is the first person to walk out of all the alleys? Absolutely impossible. I don't believe that this brat is the first person to walk out of the alley. Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun both doubted it. This was because both of them really wanted to kill Yi Hao and had never taken Yi Hao seriously. Therefore, when they heard that Yi Hao was the first person to walk out of all the alleys, they naturally couldn't accept it. This brat must have used some special method. Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun suddenly thought to themselves, "Your Highness, the second princess." Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun immediately walked up to the second princess and bowed at the same time. "This is Lord Wu." The second princess looked at the 2 of them and pointed at Wu Suo as she introduced him. Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun naturally recognized Wu Suo, but they didn't understand why Wu Suo's relationship with the second princess had suddenly become so close. However, Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun knew that this wasn't the time to ask questions. They looked at each other and bowed to Wu Suo. "Greetings, Lord Wu." Not bad. Wu Suo nodded at Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun and couldn't help but praise them. Chapter 882. Your subordinates do not know. Your Highness, please instruct us. Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun both shook their heads when they heard the second princess's question. "I want you to kill Yi Hao and avenge Lord Wu's grandson," the second princess ordered. Sure enough, the second princess noticed that Lord Wu's face flashed with anger after she said those words. He glared hatefully in Yi Hao's direction. She wanted to incite the resentment in Wu Suo's heart. Only by inciting the resentment in Wu Suo's heart, Wu Suo's hatred for Yi Hao and Zhao Ling would grow even stronger. Only by getting someone to kill Yi Hao would Wu Suo be deeply grateful to her. Lord Wu's grandson? What happened to Wu Suo? Zhang Tian was confused. "Oh, that's right. I remember that Wu Suo entered the 8th alley. Could it be?" Zhang Yun suddenly thought of something, but didn't dare say it out loud. When the 2 of them saw Wu Suo's ashen face and the second princess nod, Zhang Yun knew that he had guessed correctly. Wu Suo might have been killed by Yi Hao. When Zhang Tian saw this scene, he immediately understood what was going on. However, the 2 of them couldn't help but be shocked. They had never imagined that Yi Hao would dare to not give Wu Suo face and even kill Wu Suo's grandson. Even they wouldn't dare kill Wu Suo if they were ordered to do so. After all, they weren't sure if the second princess wouldn't be able to bear Wu Suo's anger and abandon them. I want the two of you to torture that son of a bitch to death, Wu Suo said through gritted teeth. As long as the two of you can do that, I will forever pledge my allegiance to the second princess. At the same time, I will give the two of you a large amount of resources, Wu Suo said to the two of them. Why aren't the two of you thanking young Master Wu? The second princess knew that whether or not she could be bound to Wu Suo forever depended on whether or not she could kill Yi Hao. The second princess couldn't help but look at the two of them and give them a meaningful glance. When the two of them heard the second princess's words, they immediately bowed to Wu Suo and said, Lord Wu, no matter which of us brothers encounter that bastard, we won't let that son of a bitch have a good time. That's right. This brat is outrageously audacious. He actually dared to kill young Master Wu Jiao. He should be torn to shreds, Zhang Yun hurriedly added. Then, this old man will be here. Many thanks to the two of you. Wu Suo nodded in satisfaction when he heard Zhang Tian and the other man's promise. If the two of you can't handle this matter well, then don't follow me anymore, the second princess said sternly. Yes, Zhang Tian and the other two also knew the importance of this matter. If they didn't handle it well, the consequences would be very serious. Therefore, the two of them were thinking about how to kill Yi Hao. After a moment of thought, the second princess took out some items and handed them to Zhang Tian and Zhang Xian. This is the 3-turn enchanting incense. Just a whiff of it will cause you to fall into a trance. There's also an antidote. If necessary, you can use it. At this moment, in order to rope in Wu Suo, the second princess had already reached the point where she would resort to any means necessary. Moreover, it wasn't just to avenge Wu Suo. She really disliked Yi Hao and wanted to kill Yi Hao. Therefore, with these two factors combined, she had to kill Yi Hao. This, seeing the items that the second princess took out, Zhang Tian and Zhang Xian looked troubled. One had to know that this was the prince consort competition. There were rules that forbade the use of cheating methods. If it was before, it would be fine in the alley. Even if they used it, as long as they handled it properly, no one would find out. However, the next match would be fought in the arena. That was a competition that everyone was watching. If they used such cheating methods, they might be discovered if they were the slightest bit careless. If they were discovered, the consequences would be unimaginable. At that time, even the second princess might not be able to protect them. Seeing the troubled expressions on the two's faces, the second princess couldn't help but frown. What? You're not willing? Second princess is wise. For second princess, we brothers will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire. Zhang Tian and Zhang Yin quickly said. Seeing the two's expressions, the second princess nodded in satisfaction. At the same time, she smiled and said, You don't have to be nervous. This is only for when you have no other choice. Besides, that kid's strength might not even be comparable to yours. Hearing the second princess's words, Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun finally heaved a sigh of relief. Thinking back to when they investigated Yi Hao's strength previously, he was only a first-order demon venerable. Even if Yi Hao went to the Emperor Fallen Devil Forest and broke through in these 2 months, he would only be a second-order demon venerable. Yi Hao had only broken through to the second-order demon venerable for 1 or 2 months. How could he be a match for the two of them who had broken through to the second-order demon venerable for close to half a year? One had to know that the two of them had been at the second-order demon venerable for a long time. They had long reached the peak of the second-order demon venerable. With their cultivation, fighting against a third-order demon venerable was not a problem at all. In their opinion, even if Yi Hao had broken through, it would be very good if he could break through to the third-order demon venerable in such a short time. Yi Hao's cultivation was only a second-order demon venerable. He was also not a match for them. Following that, the first place of the other few alleys were selected one after another. First place of the 10 alleys, please head to the stage and prepare to draw lots for the battle. Yi Hao, you have to work hard. At the same time, You have to be careful of Zhang Tian and the other two people, and that Fang Jie, Zhao Ling, who did not forget to remind Yi Hao. After all, to be able to stand out in the 10 alleys, each of their strength was not ordinary. And this final battle on the stage was also the most important round to choose the prince consort. At this moment, the most nervous person was Zhao Ling. After all, after this round ended, her fate would be revealed. Don't worry, the prince consort is mine. Yi Hao looked at Zhao Ling with a face of confidence. Seeing Yi Hao's confident face, Zhao Ling actually trusted Yi Hao for no reason in her heart, which reduced the worry in her heart by a lot. At this moment, a minister suddenly stood up and said, "Your Majesty, this matter concerns the third princess's prince consort. This humble subject wants to celebrate, so let this humble subject do the drawing of lots." Seeing this person, Zhao Ling knew that something was wrong. This person was Wu Suo's henchman. What's wrong? Yi Hao saw that Zhao Ling's expression had changed and could not help but ask. Zhao Ling immediately explained, "This person is Wu Suo's henchman. I'm afraid that he will play tricks on the drawing of lots." Imperial Father, since Lord Zhou said so, why don't you agree? The second princess saw that Lord Zhou had finished speaking and immediately spoke up. When the eldest princess saw this scene, she also knew that something was wrong, but it was rare for her to agree with the second princess. She said, "That's right, Imperial Father. Lord Zhou has always been impartial. Let's let Lord Zhou draw lots." Chapter 883. It's fine. They can cheat however they want. Yi Hao stopped Zhao Ling when he saw that he was about to say something. Emperor Tianyuan did not want to go against these people's wishes. After all, both of his daughters had spoken, and one of them was an official in the imperial court. He could not show that he was biased toward Zhao Ling. All right, since Lord Zhou wants to draw lots, let's do it. Emperor Tianyuan secretly glanced at Yi Hao. When he saw that Yi Hao was calm and collected, he felt relieved. Seeing that Emperor Tianyuan had agreed, the first princess, second princess, Wu Suo, and Lord Zhou were delighted. "Bastard, let's see how I'll play you to death this time." Wu Suo looked at Yi Hao viciously. "Lord Wu, you can rest assured now. That bastard's fate is in our hands now." The second princess said with a smile, "Thank you, second princess." Wu Suo hurriedly thanked the second princess. The second princess nodded in satisfaction with a smile on her face. "I'd like to see how you're going to manipulate the competition." The first princess looked at the second princess lazily before retracting her gaze. Zhao Ling looked worried. However, he was stopped by Yi Hao again. The rules of the competition are as follows. The person who wins the most number of times will become the third prince consort of Tianyuan Kingdom. Lord Zhou walked to the front of the stage and announced the rules. Then, Lord Zhou began to draw lots. The first round, Song Wu versus Yang Xi. Lord Zhou took out 2 identity tokens and showed them to everyone. What's going on? Zhao Ling was stunned when he heard Lord Zhou's words. No matter how bold he is, he wouldn't dare to pick on me right from the start. Yi Hao saw through Lord Zhou's trick. Zhao Ling nodded thoughtfully when he heard Yi Hao's words. On the other hand, Song Wu and Yang Xi were both sons of important officials in the imperial court. Their strengths were on par with each other. Both were first-order archdevil ancestors. The two of them also didn't expect that they would be drawn as soon as they came up. "Yang Xi, just admit defeat. You're no match for me." Song Wu held his hammers and jumped onto the stage. He looked at Yang Xi with disdain. "Haha, Song Wu, you're still so arrogant. Let me have a taste of your current strength." Yang Xi held a huge saber and rested it on his shoulder. Yang Xi did not care about Song Wu's words at all. His tone was also filled with provocation. "Loser, you've already lost to me so many times, yet you still overestimate yourself. Today, I'm going to beat the shit out of you." Song Wu also looked at Yang Xi with disdain. "All right, if the 2 contestants are ready, we can start at any time. It's best if you don't take each other's lives." Lord Zhou's voice sounded at the same time. and then he walked down the ring. Yang Si, you don't know what's good for you? Get the hell down then. Song Wu slammed his hammers together. Immediately, a huge rumbling sound spread out in all directions. So strong, seeing Song Wu's hammers dance. Many cultivators with low cultivation looked at Song Wu in shock. The one who's going to get the hell down the stage is you. Yang Si didn't show any weakness. He held his saber in front of him and attacked Song Wu. Boom! Song Wu's hammers and Yang Si's saber collided, creating a violent rumbling sound. The two of them didn't seem to be outdone. This Song Wu is the son of General Song. His attacks are really powerful. That Yang Si is the son of General Yang. He doesn't look weak either. Look at the two of them, they're evenly matched. Who do you think will win? I heard that Song Wu has been a demon venerable for a long time. I think Song Wu has a higher chance of winning. When the crowd saw Song Wu and Yang Si exchange blows, they immediately started discussing. At the beginning, Song Wu and Yang Si only used strength to attack. However, slowly, the two of them started using martial skills. However, it was clear that the two of them had been holding back and didn't reveal their full strength. After all, they were the ones who came up first. There were still so many people behind them. It was definitely not a wise choice to reveal their full strength at this time. Who do you think will win between the two of them? Zhao Ling, or watch the two of them fight? In order to divert the tension in his heart, he couldn't help but ask. Song Wu, Yi Hao said directly. Hearing Yi Hao's words, Zhao Ling couldn't help but voice his opinion, but I think that Yang Si's attacks are more ferocious. Moreover, he has the upper hand. Yi Hao smiled and didn't say anything. Right at this moment, Song Wu was suddenly pushed back by Yang Si, and Song Wu was also retreating. Seeing this rare opportunity, Yang Si naturally wanted to take advantage of it and pursue. Yang Si seemed to be unforgiving, and his hand continued to slice through the air, creating sonic booms. Look, Yang Si is going to win. Zhao Ling couldn't help but be secretly delighted by his guess. Although he didn't think highly of either of them, he was still happy that his guess was correct. Seeing Zhao Ling's delighted expression, Yi Hao mercilessly poured cold water on him. Don't be in such a hurry. The one who will lose will definitely be Yang Si. No! Before Zhao Ling could finish speaking, Song Wu had already rushed forward. He saw Song Wu, who had been retreating in panic, looking at Yang Si with a smug expression. He couldn't help but smile, as if his scheme had succeeded. Yang Si, you're still too inexperienced. Song Wu suddenly revealed an opening. As for Yang Si, he really thought that it was because Song Wu had been attacked by him that he had revealed an opening. Thus, Yang Si didn't doubt that his attacks would be even more ferocious. However, just as Yang Si's attack was about to land on Song Wu's body, Song Wu suddenly dodged and threw the hammer in his hand at Yang Si. When Yang Si saw this, his expression changed. He had no time to think and could only dodge to the side. However, Song Wu seemed to have been prepared. His other hammer blocked Yang Si's path of retreat. Yang Si's expression became even more unsightly. He couldn't advance or retreat. Although Yang Si was unwilling, he still shouted, "I admit defeat." After all, staying alive was more important. Hearing Yang Si admit defeat, Song Wu could only withdraw his attack. He looked at Yang Si proudly. A loser will always be a loser. Yang Si was furious. He shouldn't have been careless and fallen for Song Wu's trap. However, a loss was a loss. There was nothing he could do. I didn't think that Song Wu would actually win. Zhao Ling was in disbelief. She had clearly thought that Yang Si would win. How had Song Wu managed to turn defeat into victory? Zhao Ling couldn't help but look at Yi Hao. Yi Hao's guess had been so accurate. Song Wu wins. The next battle will be Yi Hao and Zheng Wang. Lord Zhou glanced at Yi Hao. Chapter 884. What did you say? Hearing Yi Hao's words, Lord Zhou, who was holding the two tokens in his hands, was stunned. He didn't quite understand what Yi Hao meant. I said let the 9 of them fight together to save time. Yi Hao looked at Lord Zhou and said, "What did he say? Let all 9 of them fight together? Oh my God, this kid is too arrogant. But there's a price to pay for being arrogant. Is he a match for all 9 of them?" That's right. I heard that the sword expert Fang Jie is already a 3rd order demon venerable. Not to mention Fang Jie. Even Zhang Tian and his brother are very strong. What is this kid? How can he be so arrogant? Many of the onlookers who heard Yi Hao's words started discussing and pointing at Yi Hao. Obviously, they didn't like Yi Hao and thought that Yi Hao was too arrogant. What did this kid say? When Wu Suo heard Yi Hao's words, he was also stunned. Then he sneered, "I didn't expect this person to be so arrogant. He's asking for it." If that's the case, won't it save us a lot of effort? The second princess sneered, "Challenging everyone? Is he crazy? He's overestimating himself." The first princess looked at Yi Hao with her sleepy eyes, afraid that she had misheard. What is he trying to do? Even Zhao Ling was stunned at this moment. She had been worried about whether Yi Hao could win or not. In the end, Yi Hao looked like he was just watching a show and actually wanted to challenge everyone. Can he really do it? Zhao Ling looked at Yi Hao's confident expression and couldn't help but doubt. This is nonsense. Emperor Tan Yuan frowned when he heard Yi Hao's words. You have to think carefully. Once the competition starts, you can't regret it. Lord Zhou couldn't help but look at Yi Hao. He had originally wanted to tamper with the drawing of lots. It was to continuously draw Yi Hao and let the 9 of them take turns to fight against Yi Hao. But he did not expect Yi Hao to challenge all 9 of them. One had to know that if 9 people ganged up on Yi Hao, it would cause more damage to Yi Hao than if 9 people ganged up on Yi Hao. At this moment, Lord Zhou was afraid that Yi Hao would regret his decision. He hurriedly asked, "I've thought it through. Let them come at me together." Yi Hao nodded. Hee, what an arrogant brat. Young master will let you know how the word death is written. If you want to challenge the 9 of us, you should know that there's a price to pay for showing off. How dare you speak such arrogant words? I'll let you know how to write regret. Brat, it's not wrong to be arrogant, but you should know your limits. Yi Hao's words naturally angered the remaining 9 people. No matter what, the fact that they were able to pass the challenge in the alley proved that they were not weak. Among those of the same age, they were considered to be favored by the heavens. But Yi Hao's words were a blatant disregard for them. He did not take them seriously at all. Therefore, this was something that they could not accept. At this moment, all of them could not help but speak angrily. Meanwhile, Zhang Tian and Lord Zhou were delighted. They never expected that Yi Hao would provoke everyone. This way, it would be easier to kill Yi Hao when the time came. Zhang Tian could not help but speak up to provoke the crowd. "Brothers, this brat does not take us seriously. We definitely cannot tolerate this." That's right. This brat actually wants to challenge all of us. Naturally, we have to fulfill his wish and let him know the immensity of heaven and earth. Zhang Yin hurriedly added after hearing Zhang Tian's words. Teach him a lesson. That's right. We must teach him a lesson. We must not let this brat off easily. Hearing Zhang Tian and Lord Zhou's words, the remaining few people shouted with anger on their faces. As soon as Zhang Tian and Lord Zhou finished speaking, everyone except Fang Jie walked into the arena. Everyone could not help but look at Fang Jie, who was standing proudly at the side. When Fang Jie saw everyone's gaze, he could not help but say, "Bullying with numbers is an unfair victory. I, Fang Jie, disdain to do such a thing." As soon as Fang Jie finished speaking, the few people in the arena immediately looked embarrassed. Humph, since he's not going to make a move, then we will. Zhang Tian snorted coldly. All right. As soon as Zhang Tian finished speaking, the remaining few people took out their weapons and attacked Yi Hao. Since you don't want to make a move, then let me make a move. Yi Hao did not look at Zhang Tian and the rest. Instead, he looked at Fang Jie at the side. In his eyes, only Fang Jie was worthy of him making a move. Because Fang Jie was the strongest, he naturally had to finish off Fang Jie first. As long as he finished off Fang Jie, he did not need to care about the remaining 8 people at all. Rippling Rain Sword. Yi Hao used a martial skill and attacked Fang Jie directly. What was he doing? He actually took the initiative to attack Fang Jie. One must know that Fang Jie is a third-order demon venerable. He is very strong. Can he be a match for Fang Jie? He actually wants to challenge 9 people at once. When everyone saw Yi Hao's actions, they were completely shocked. Fang Jie obviously did not expect that Yi Hao would take the initiative to provoke him when he disdained to make a move against Yi Hao. Fang Jie was not a stubborn person. When he saw Yi Hao attacking him, he immediately pulled out his long sword. This was because he felt that Yi Hao's rippling rain sword was coming at him menacingly. 7 swords of absolute death. Fang Jie's face was full of arrogance, following which, the long sword in his hand left streaks of sword marks in the air. Preposterous. This brat is simply too arrogant. Zhang Tian and the rest of the 8 people were furious at this moment. This was because the 8 of them had surrounded Yi Hao. However, Yi Hao did not care about them at all and attacked Fang Jie. How could they not be angry? Yi Hao did not take them seriously. However, when everyone saw that Fang Jie was using a martial skill, although they were angry, they did not rush forward. This was because they had heard of Fang Jie's martial skill before. Fang Jie had his own unique understanding of martial skills and sword skills. He was very accomplished in using the sword. Fang Jie was not only strong, but his martial skills and sword skills were even more powerful. Fang Jie had relied on his talent in using the sword to defeat countless martial artists of the same level as him. The 7 swords of absolute death that Fang Jie was using now was a martial skill that was full of martial skills. Fang Jie could use the 7 swords of absolute death to perfection. Moreover, the 7 swords of absolute death was a martial skill that was full of killing intent. Every move that was used would bring about devastating damage to the enemy. The 7 swords of absolute death could be said to be fatal. Therefore, when everyone saw Fang Jie using the 7 swords of absolute death, they did not dare to rush forward rashly for fear of accidentally injuring themselves. Chapter 885. Hearing Zhang Tian's words, Zhang Yun stood aside. Fang Jie actually used the 7 swords of death. Looks like this kid is in for it. He actually made Fang Jie use the 7 swords of death. This kid must have angered Fang Jie. I heard that every time Fang Jie uses the 7 swords of death, his opponents are either severely injured or crippled. I reckon this kid's outcome won't be any better. Everyone couldn't help but discuss when they saw Fang Jie's martial arts technique. The reason was that they had heard of Fang Jie's 7 swords of death. What a strong, killing intent. Yi Hao was shocked when he saw Fang Jie's martial arts technique. Looks like this Fang Jie really is an expert in the way of the sword. Yi Hao gave Fang Jie a definition in his heart. Then, he returned to normal. This was because Fang Jie's understanding of the 7 swords of death was very good. He even added some of his own understanding into it. This was definitely something that ordinary people couldn't do. However, it was nothing in front of Yi Hao. Although he wasn't a sword expert, he had a powerful system. Every time he practiced a martial arts technique, the system would automatically analyze it and give him its understanding of the martial arts technique as his proficiency in the martial arts technique increased. Therefore, Yi Hao's understanding of the martial arts technique wasn't any weaker than Fang Jie's. In fact, in some aspects, he was much stronger than Fang Jie. Therefore, when Yi Hao saw Fang Jie's martial arts technique, although he was shocked by Fang Jie's talent, he quickly returned to normal. At that moment, the 2 of their attacks finally collided. Fang Jie was still calm and collected. This was because he was very confident in his 7 swords of death. However, what made him feel strange was that he didn't see the expression on Yi Hao's face that he wanted to see. This was because his past opponents would panic when they saw him use the 7 swords of death. However, Yi Hao didn't seem to be affected at all. Fang Jie suddenly frowned. This was because he finally realized that Yi Hao's attack wasn't ordinary. He's very strong. Fang Jie finally stopped underestimating him. Although it was just a simple collision, he could feel that Yi Hao was definitely not weaker than him. Fang Jie put away his contempt and started a fight with Yi Hao. Yi Hao, on the other hand, looked like he would accompany her to the end. Actually, Yi Hao was also trying to increase his proficiency in martial arts. After all, sparring with an expert like Fang Jie would be of great help to his growth. At the same time, he did not use his full strength. After all, his current cultivation was comparable to a fourth-order demon ancestor. If he unleashed his full strength, Fang Jie would definitely not be his match. The two of them are actually evenly matched. Heavens, am I seeing things? Could it be that the kid is as strong as Fang Jie? They've already fought for several rounds. It's simply impossible to tell who's at a disadvantage. Who exactly is this brat? He's too powerful. The crowd looked at the battle between Yi Hao and Fang Jie. Yi Hao was not at a disadvantage at all. It was completely different from what they had imagined. He's actually evenly matched with Fang Jie. The person who was most shocked at this moment was none other than the first princess, because Fang Jie was her subordinate, and she knew Fang Jie very well. However, he had never seen Fang Jie fight with such a serious expression before. This could only mean that Yi Hao's strength was enough to threaten Fang Jie. Otherwise, Fang Jie would definitely not be like this. Hiss! He's actually so strong. The second princess could not help but suck in a breath of cold air when she saw this scene, because Yi Hao's strength was far beyond her imagination. She originally thought that she could rely on Zhang Tian or Zhang Yun to take care of Yi Hao. However, after seeing Yi Hao and Fang Jie's battle, she realized that Yi Hao was definitely not that easy to deal with. The second princess could not help but look at Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun. She signaled them with her eyes, indicating that they could make a move at any time. As for Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun, when they saw Yi Hao and Fang Jie's opponents, their hearts were filled with shock. They never expected Yi Hao to be so strong that he could actually fight Fang Jie to a standstill. One must know that even they did not dare to say that they could fight Fang Jie to a standstill. However, Yi Hao had managed to do it. Therefore, at this moment, the two of them had a serious expression on their faces. After receiving the second princess's signal, Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun could not help but stare at Yi Hao, ready to make a move at any time. My grandson will definitely die in his hands. At this moment, Wu Suo saw Yi Hao's strength and immediately said with certainty. This was because he saw Yi Hao's current strength and knew that with Yi Hao's strength, it would be a piece of cake for him to kill Wu Jiao and the others. Lord Wu, don't worry. No matter how strong this kid is, he will still die in the arena today. The second princess could not help but say when she saw Wu Suo's grim expression. When Wu Suo heard the second princess's words and thought of the 9 people in the arena attacking Yi Hao, he could not help but nod in satisfaction. Go! Following the second princess's signal with her eyes, Zhang Tian suddenly shouted and immediately attacked Yi Hao. Brothers, this kid is strong. Let's attack together. Zhang Yun immediately shouted. As for the remaining people, when they saw Zhang Tian and Zhang Xin attack, they all looked at each other and attacked Yi Hao one after another. Yi Hao looked at the people attacking him from all directions. He was not afraid at all. He could not help but shout with an excited expression on his face. Good timing. The 9 people, including Fang Jie, used their martial skills and attacked Yi Hao. When the crowd saw this scene, they immediately turned their attention to the arena. They had not expected that the 9 people would really attack Yi Hao together. It looks like Yi Hao is going to lose. That Yi Hao is on par with Fang Jie. Now that there are 8 more opponents, he will definitely lose. This Yi Hao should not have said that he would fight against 9 people. If he had taken them one by one, he might have become the prince consort. As the saying goes, there's no medicine for regret. Now that the outcome is set, even if Yi Hao regrets it, there's nothing he can do. When Zhaoling saw this scene, her heart was in her throat. She could not help but shout anxiously, Yi Hao, be careful. The first princess, second princess, and the rest sneered. They looked at Yi Hao as if he was a dead man. After all, Yi Hao was on par with Fang Jie. Now that there were 8 more powerful opponents, how could Yi Hao hold on? At this moment, Emperor Tianyuan also frowned. He wanted to stop this farce. After all, if this continued, Yi Hao would definitely lose. If Yi Hao lost, then Zhao Ling would be finished. However, this was Yi Hao's choice. Emperor Tianyuan could not do anything about it. Chapter 886. Yi Hao dodged everyone's attacks again and attacked Fang Jie with his sword. You're going too far. When Zhang Tian and the rest saw this scene, they were completely infuriated. How little did Yi Hao care about them? That was why he ignored them time and time again. It was as if Yi Hao only had Fang Jie as his enemy and treated them like air. Kill. Zhang Tian's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He roared and changed the direction of their attacks. They attacked Yi Hao again. On the other hand, Fang Jie frowned slightly. He didn't understand why Yi Hao only targeted him. He thought that Zhang Tian and the rest attacks would reduce the pressure on him. However, Yi Hao didn't seem to care about Zhang Tian and the rest at all. Fang Jie had no choice but to continue receiving Yi Hao's attacks. He believed that with his strength, Yi Hao wouldn't be able to do any harm to him for a while. Gale steps. Who knew that Yi Hao would suddenly use his weapon and increase his speed? This time, Yi Hao didn't hold back. He used his full strength and attacked Fang Jie. Fang Jie saw that Yi Hao was coming at him fiercely. He had no choice but to block with his sword. Boom! The attacks of the two clashed together in an instant. The collision of the two swords caused a violent roar. Both of them used their full strength and collided with each other. Oh no! Fang Jie blocked Yi Hao's attack. Suddenly, his heart sank. He realized that Yi Hao's strength was much stronger than before. This is the strength of at least a level 4 demon venerable. Fang Jie's face changed drastically. If he knew that Yi Hao was a level 4 demon venerable from the start, he wouldn't have dared to fight Yi Hao head-on. However, it was already too late for him to do so. The huge impact had almost caused his arms to go numb. However, Yi Hao didn't give up and continued to attack him. At this moment, Fang Jie's brows were completely knitted together. That was because he was too close to Yi Hao. Furthermore, Yi Hao's attacks were too frequent. For a moment, he was unable to fight back. Fang Jie had no choice but to fight back bitterly while simultaneously neutralizing Yi Hao's moves. But Yi Hao's powerful strength shook his arms until they were numb. He had a feeling that if this continued, his entire arm would be crippled. At that time, he wouldn't even be able to hold his sword. What should I do? Fang Jie was extremely anxious. At the same time, Fang Jie cursed Zhang Tian and the others in his heart. He had held Yi Hao back for so long, yet none of them were quick enough to deal with Yi Hao to relieve some of his pressure. But how could he have known that Zhang Tian did it on purpose? Because when Zhang Tian saw his strength, he was also very wary in his heart. Zhang Tian was very happy to see the two of them suffer. At that time, he would sit back and reap the benefits. Therefore, even though Zhang Tian was angrily following behind Yi Hao, he didn't show his full strength. Zhang Tian was only trying to sow discord among the crowd. He would wait until he and Yi Hao were both injured before making his move. What is Fang Jie doing? Why is he retreating? The two of them were evenly matched just now. Could it be that Fang Jie is going easy on Yi Hao? Isn't Fang Jie an expert in the way of the sword? Why doesn't his swordsmanship seem that much stronger than Yi Hao's? At this moment, everyone couldn't help but discuss when they saw Fang Jie retreating. They didn't know that Yi Hao had been hiding his strength from the start. Therefore, they still thought that Fang Jie was going easy on Yi Hao. All of them looked at Fang Jie unhappily. If Fang Jie knew what everyone was thinking at this moment, would he have the urge to vomit blood? Kneel before me. Yi Hao suddenly roared. He activated his own martial arts power and attacked Fang Jie. Fang Jie's expression changed again. He could only grit his teeth and endure. 7 Swords of Death. At this moment, Fang Jie only wanted to use his martial technique to break Yi Hao's attack. Yi Hao also used his martial technique, and his strength was stronger than Fang Jie's. Therefore, even if Fong Jie used his martial technique, he still wasn't a match for Yi Hao. Sweeping rain sword. As if they were going to cut through the raindrops in the sky, the dense sword shadows pressed down on Fong Jie. At this moment, the 7 swords of death that Fong Jie was so proud it was actually being suppressed by the sweeping rain sword. Fong Jie finally couldn't take it anymore and spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this scene, there was an uproar. Fong Jie was beaten to the point of spitting blood. Could it be that Yi Hao's strength is above Fong Jie's? That's very possible. When the crowd saw this scene, there was an uproar. How strong is this kid? Fong Jie was the first princess's subordinate. At this moment, the first princess saw Fong Jie spitting blood. The languid expression on his face instantly disappeared as he looked at Yi Hao with eyes that were as bright as torches. He is indeed strong. The second princess also frowned as she looked at Yi Hao. She originally thought that Yi Hao was at most a second-order demon venerable. However, when Yi Hao was evenly matched with Fong Jie, she was slightly shocked. However, she never expected that Yi Hao wasn't at his full strength. Yi Hao's full strength was actually able to defeat Fong Jie. Could he be a fourth-order demon venerable? The second princess's heart suddenly sank as she thought of a bad possibility. At this moment, Wu Suo's face was also filled with displeasure. This was because he wanted Yi Hao to die and not others to be injured. This was because Fong Jie was the strongest person here. If even Fong Jie was defeated by Yi Hao, then the rest of the people wouldn't be a match for Yi Hao. Wu Suo couldn't help but look at Zhang Tian and the rest. He said unhappily, if that bunch of trash doesn't make a move now, they won't have a chance later. He's actually so strong. Xiaoling couldn't help but rejoice when she saw that Yi Hao was actually able to make Fong Jie bleed. Xiaoling also heaved a sigh of relief because she was worried that Yi Hao wouldn't be able to defeat Fong Jie. However, now it seemed that she was completely overthinking it. At the same time, Xiaoling was also a little surprised. She also didn't expect Yi Hao to be so strong. Good boy, you've really made me see you in a new light. Emperor Tianyuan couldn't help but be shocked when he saw Fong Jie vomit blood. He praised in his heart. When Yi Hao saw Fong Jie vomit blood, he followed up his victory and attacked Fong Jie again. This time, Fong Jie finally couldn't block it. His arms were numb, and he couldn't hold his weapon properly. The longsword in his hand was also sent flying by Yi Hao. He was originally an expert in the way of the sword. Now that he lost his longsword, it was as if he had lost his arms. He wasn't a match for Yi Hao even when he was holding a longsword. At this moment, he was even less of a match for Yi Hao. Yi Hao's sword pierced towards Fong Jie. No! Fong Jie shouted in fear when he saw the longsword in Yi Hao's hand emitting a cold light. Chapter 887. Since that's the case, then die. Yi Hao did not intend to kill Fong Jie, but when he heard the eldest princess's words, he wanted to kill him. Puchi. The cold sword entered Fong Jie's throat, and a bloody wound appeared on his neck. A stream of bright red blood spurted out. Fong Jie clutched his neck in disbelief, his face filled with unwillingness. With his talent, he had yet to fully mature. He had yet to help the eldest princess ascend the throne. How could he be willing to die like this? But he felt that it was increasingly difficult to breathe. With a plop, Fong Jie's eyes widened as he fell to the ground unwillingly. This scene undoubtedly caused a huge commotion, and it set off a wave of discussion. Everyone could not help but rub their eyes, not daring to believe the scene before their eyes. Fong Jie was actually killed. That kid is so bold, daring to kill the eldest princess's men. This kid is too arrogant. The eldest princess stopped him just now, and he actually dared to not stop. Quickly look at the eldest princess's expression. This kid has completely angered the eldest princess. No one expected that Fong Jie would die in the arena. This was because, in everyone's opinion, apart from Yi Hao, Fong Jie was the person with the greatest hope of becoming the prince consort. Among his peers, Fong Jie was definitely a proud son of heaven, crushing all martial artists of the same age. Furthermore, Fang Jie had a unique understanding of the sword Dao. If he were to mature, he would definitely be a great expert. But at this moment, he was directly killed by Yi Hao in the arena. This made everyone sigh. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for killing a rank 3 demon supremacy. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 70,000 experience points. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for obtaining the Mystic Supreme Grade Martial Technique, 7 Swords of Absolute Death. Do you wish to cultivate it? Cultivate. Hearing the system's notification, Yihao naturally chose to cultivate it. This was because when he saw Fang Jie use the 7 Swords of Absolute Death, he felt that it was very good. The 7 Swords of Absolute Death focused on killing, and every sword was filled with killing intent. Just in terms of fighting, this 7 Swords of Absolute Death was definitely the best of the Mystic Supreme Grade martial techniques. Yihao naturally wanted to cultivate such a martial technique. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for comprehending the Mystic Supreme Grade martial technique, 7 Swords of Absolute Death. You bastard, you're courting death. Seeing that Yihao had really killed Fang Jie, the eldest princess was infuriated. She yelled, "Men, kill that bastard." Clearly, Fang Jie's position in the first princess's heart was also very important. When he saw Fang Jie being killed, he almost lost his mind. After all, with Fang Jie's talent, growing to become a fiend emperor was only a matter of time. In the Tianyuan kingdom, there were very few demon emperors. And Fang Jie's death also announced that she had lost a demon emperor powerhouse. How could she not be furious? Many people's expressions changed when they heard the first princess's words. Even the guards behind the first princess had panicked looks on their faces. When the second princess saw this, she couldn't help but sneer in her heart. Although she was shocked that Yihao had killed Fang Jie, she was happy. After all, she and the eldest princess were like fire and water. She was extremely fearful of Fang Jie's talent. But now that Fang Jie had been killed, she had one less person to be wary of. At the same time, it had weakened the first princess's strength. What she didn't expect was that the first princess would lose her mind and give such an order. How dare you? Emperor Tianyuan's face was ashen at this moment. He slammed the table in front of him. Everyone's hearts froze as they looked at Emperor Tianyuan cautiously. After all, it was a serious matter when the emperor was angry. When the first princess heard Emperor Tianyuan's words, she was instantly jolted awake. She looked at the second princess beside her with a sneer on her face. The guards beside her also had panicked looks on their faces. When she looked at Emperor Tianyuan again and saw his angry face, the first princess panicked and thought to herself, "Oh no." Cold sweat appeared on the first princess's head instantly. The first princess couldn't care less about anything else. She immediately knelt on the ground and said, "Father, please calm down. I have been rude. Please punish me." After all, this was the place to choose the emperor's son-in-law. Other than the civil and military officials, there were countless onlookers. Among these onlookers, other than the citizens of the Tianyuan kingdom, there were also spies from various forces. What she said just now was obviously bullying. She simply didn't put Emperor Tianyuan in her eyes. This was not a small crime. At this moment, the first princess's intestines were green with regret. Why didn't she keep her rationality? The first princess's hatred for Yihao grew stronger. If Yihao hadn't killed Fang Jie, she wouldn't have lost her rationality. But when she thought of Fang Jie's death, her heart felt as if it was being twisted by a knife. "Bastard, if I don't kill you, I'm not human." The first princess's gaze was cold. She clenched her fists and swore in her heart. The first princess doesn't know the rules. Your salary will be deducted for a year. The rest of the punishment will be decided after the competition. Emperor Tianyuan looked at the first princess and said in a deep voice, "I am willing to be punished." The first princess heaved a sigh of relief. At least the Emperor Tianyuan didn't punish her severely in front of everyone. If Emperor Tianyuan really punished her severely in front of so many people, it would definitely damage her reputation. Hearing the first princess's punishment, The second princess couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Let the competition continue. Emperor Tianyuan looked at Yi Hao and the others in the arena and said directly. When they heard Emperor Tianyuan's words, many people in the arena had looks of panic on their faces. This was because they were also shocked by Yi Hao's strength. They didn't expect Yi Hao to be able to kill Fang Jie. One had to know that most of them were aware of their own strength. They were definitely no match for Fang Jie. If Yi Hao could kill Fang Jie, then wouldn't killing them be a piece of cake? Everyone was hesitant. No one dared to make a move first. Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun looked at Yi Hao with fear in their eyes. They knew that if they wanted to kill Yi Hao, everyone would have to work together. Otherwise, with their strength, even if they killed Yi Hao, they wouldn't have it easy. Everyone, we are all here for the position of the Emperor's son-in-law. With this kid around, we will definitely have no chance of becoming the Emperor's son-in-law. That's right, the two of us can't stand this. As long as everyone works together to kill him, we will withdraw from the competition. Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun looked at each other and said, if they wanted to use everyone now, they had to give them enough temptation. Otherwise, if these people were frightened by Yi Hao's strength and didn't dare to make a move, it would be very difficult to kill Yi Hao today. As expected, many people were immediately swayed by Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun's words. After all, they were also afraid of Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun's strength. If Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun withdrew from the competition, then the remaining people would be evenly matched. At that time, everyone would have a chance to become the Emperor's son-in-law. Chapter 888. What we said is absolutely true. Zhang Tian immediately said when he heard the question. That's right. We only want to kill him and give up the position of Emperor's son-in-law. Zhang Yun also said when he heard Zhang Tian's words. All right, I hope you guys keep your promise. Everyone, since it's already come to this point, it's time to fight. Let's join forces and kill this kid. After hearing Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun's words, everyone made up their minds. After all, the position of Emperor's son-in-law was right in front of them. It could be said that it was within reach. As long as they killed Yi Hao, everyone would have a chance. Moreover, as long as they killed Yi Hao, Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun would withdraw. Then, their chances of becoming the Emperor's son-in-law would increase. Hearing everyone's words, Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun did not say anything, but a cold smile appeared on their faces. Are you guys done talking nonsense? Seeing everyone's discussion, Yi Hao asked impatiently, if you're done talking, I'm going to make my move. This dog is really arrogant. Since this dog is courting death, let's fulfill his wish. All right, let's attack together and kill him. The people in the arena could not help but sneer at Yi Hao as they prepared to attack. Kill. Following Zhang Tian's order, everyone activated their martial techniques. Dazzling and colorful martial skills formed streaks of gorgeous flowing light, attacking towards Yi Hao. The 8 of them saw Yi Hao kill Fang Jie, so none of them dared to underestimate Yi Hao. Each and every one of them used all of their strength, hoping to kill Yi Hao as quickly as possible. The 8 of them attacked one after another. Their powerful martial strength blasted towards Yi Hao. Oh my god, what powerful strength! This Yi Hao is probably finished this time. Everyone present looked at the scene in front of them in shock. Many people could not help but hold their breaths when they saw such a large formation. When Zhao Ling saw this scene, his heart was in his throat again. Oof, a bunch of ants. To outsiders, the 8 of them joined forces to attack like an inescapable net. That powerful force sealed off his escape route. But from Yi Hao's point of view, the 8 of them working together was full of loopholes. That was because these people all had their own thoughts. On the surface, they were working together to display their full strength, but in their hearts, they were all on guard against each other. I'll let you experience what it means to be in despair. Yi Hao did not panic at all when he saw the crowd's attacks. Instead, he sneered. You should be the one experiencing despair. Zhang Tian coldly snorted. Everyone looked at Yi Hao strangely. They didn't understand why Yi Hao was in such a dangerous situation. How could he still be so calm and say such words? This kid, he couldn't have been scared silly, right? Someone couldn't help but look at Yi Hao and asked suspiciously. Zhao Linger looked at Yi Hao and broke out in a cold sweat. What is this kid up to? Emperor Tianyuan couldn't help but look at Yi Hao with a trace of worry on his face. The 8 people who killed Yi Hao couldn't help but smile when they saw that Yi Hao was still standing in the same spot. As far as they were concerned, victory was already in sight. They could almost see Yi Hao being smashed into a pulp by them. The position of the emperor's son-in-law was waving at them. Just as the crowd's attacks were about to land on Yi Hao suddenly moved. 7 swords of absolute death. Yi Hao wasn't the only one who moved. The cold sword in his hand was also moving. It was filled with dense, killing intent. Boundless martial arts energy burst out from the cold sword and spread out in all directions. Those powers were aimed at the crowd's vital points with unerring accuracy. And the energy formed by the crowd's martial arts technique was instantly destroyed by Yi Hao's attack. Everyone at the scene was instantly dumbfounded. Their faces were filled with astonishment. His martial arts technique seems to be Feng Jie's 7 swords of absolute death. How can this be? The 7 swords of absolute death is Feng Jie's martial arts technique. How can he know it? Definitely. This is definitely the 7 swords of absolute death. Everyone looked at Yi Hao's martial arts technique in shock. They couldn't understand how Yi Hao could know the 7 swords of absolute death. Impossible, absolutely impossible. The eldest princess stood up when she saw this scene. This was because the 7 swords of absolute death was something that Feng Jie had obtained by chance in a mystic realm. It was impossible for anyone else to know it. But at this very moment, Yi Hao had indeed used the 7 swords of absolute death in a real battle. Furthermore, the 7 swords of absolute death that Yi Hao had used was much more powerful than Feng Jie's. How can this be? Zhang Tian's face changed and instantly turned pale. He couldn't understand why the martial arts technique that he had used with all his might had been easily defeated by Yi Hao. Zhang Tian wasn't the only one whose face changed. The other 7 people's faces changed as well. Oh no, run! Suddenly, someone shouted in a panic. This was because they felt the aura of death from Yi Hao's 7 swords of absolute death. After all, the 7 swords of absolute death was a martial arts technique that was decisive in killing. This martial arts technique was overbearing and brutal. As long as a martial artist was targeted by the 7 swords of absolute death, it would be difficult for them to escape. Yi Hao's 7 swords of absolute death was executed smoothly. It was much more powerful than the one that Feng Jie had used previously. You want to kill me, and now you want to escape. Isn't it too late? Yi Hao moved and activated his martial arts technique again. The powerful 7 swords of absolute death swept up waves of energy and instantly sealed off everyone's escape route. Everyone's faces turned even uglier. They looked at Yi Hao warily, and their eyes were filled with panic. I admit defeat. I admit defeat too. I'll give you the prince consort. My father is the current ruler. I'm the only descendant. I beg you, don't kill me. When everyone saw Yi Hao's 7 swords of absolute death and the powerful aura that Yi Hao exuded, they knew that they weren't a match for Yi Hao. Since they weren't a match for Yi Hao, they didn't even have the strength to resist. If you don't want to die, kneel down. Yi Hao stared coldly at the crowd. Weaklings have to maintain their composure. If you want to live, you have to be obedient. Everyone looked at each other. No matter what, each and every one of them possessed a status that was a cut above others. Every single one of them had a powerful background in the Tianyuan kingdom. However, at this moment, they had to kneel down in front of Yi Hao in front of everyone. How could they accept such humiliation? It seems like you all have a backbone. Then, Yi Hao was about to attack again when he saw the crowd's hesitant looks. In Yi Hao's opinion, killing them would be letting them off too easily. And the only thing that was more useful than killing them was to humiliate them. Everyone panicked when they heard Yi Hao's words. They didn't doubt that Yi Hao would kill them. Chapter 889. Men should not kneel. You must not kneel. Zhang Tian said anxiously when he saw that everyone was about to kneel before Yi Hao. If they joined forces, they still had a chance of killing Yi Hao. At the very least, they would be in an undefeatable position. However, if everyone knelt before Yi Hao and begged for mercy, the two of them would be done for. After all, it was absolutely impossible for them to kneel before Yi Hao. Even if they knelt before Yi Hao, the second princess would definitely skin them alive. If everyone knelt, it would be a piece of cake for the two of them in the future. At this thought, Zhang Tian couldn't help but secretly take the triple, turned bewitching incense that the second princess had given him. At this moment, he couldn't care less. Only this triple turned bewitching incense had a chance to turn the tables. Second brother, do it. Zhang Tian suddenly shouted at Zhang Yun. Zhang Yun naturally knew what Zhang Tian wanted to do. He couldn't help but pick up his weapon and use his martial skill to attack Yi Hao. The instant Zhang Yun attacked Yi Hao, Zhang Tian crushed the triple-turned bewitching incense in his hand and attacked Yi Hao at the same time. When Zhang Tian saw that Yi Hao had focused all his attention on Zhang Yun, he couldn't help but feel delighted. When the second princess and Wu Suo saw this scene, they immediately realized what was going on. The second princess and Wu Suo involuntarily looked at Zhang Tian nervously. The reason for that was because whether or not they would be able to kill Yi Hao completely depended on whether or not the three revolutions soul bewitching incense in Zhang Tian's hand would be effective against Yi Hao. Raining sword. Yi Hao looked at Zhang Yun and used his martial skill. Immediately, a powerful martial skill attack formed a powerful force that almost enveloped Zhang Yun. In an instant, Zhang Yun's body was covered in wounds. How can he be so strong? Even Zhang Yun's eyes were fixed on Yi Hao. When he had entered the arena, he had looked down on Yi Hao. However, he had never imagined that the gap between him and Yi Hao would be so huge. In front of Yi Hao, he was powerless and could only hold on. Hurry up. Zhang Yun couldn't help but hope that Zhang Tian would be faster. If Zhang Tian's speed was any slower, then he would be in danger. Everyone present couldn't help but watch this scene. None of them understood. Why would Zhang Tian and Zhang Xin suddenly fight so desperately against Yi Hao? One had to know that the strength that Yi Hao had displayed earlier was something that even Zhang Tian and the other 8 were no match for. Since the 8 of them couldn't beat Yi Hao, there was no need to mention Zhang Tian and his brother. It could only be said that the 2 of them were no match for Yi Hao. Thus, when the crowd saw Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun attacking without any regard for their lives, they were all completely stunned. You dog, you're about to die. The closer they got to Yi Hao, the more nervous Zhang Tian became. At the same time, he sneered. 7 swords of death. Just as Zhang Tian was sneering in his heart, Yi Hao's voice suddenly rang in his ears. They didn't know when, but Yi Hao had actually pushed Zhang Yun back and attacked him with a sword. Zhang Tian's expression changed, and he hurriedly scattered the 3-turned soul, enchanting incense in his hand. Insignificant skill. I knew that you would have this kind of skill. Seeing Zhang Tian's 3-turned soul, enchanting incense, Yi Hao seemed to have expected it. He immediately retreated and kicked Zhang Yun at the same time. Zhang Yun was already seriously injured by Yi Hao's raining sword. At this moment, he couldn't withstand Yi Hao's kick at all. Zhang Yun was directly sent flying and crashed into Zhang Tian. Cough, cough, cough. Almost half of Zhang Tian's 3-turned soul, enchanting incense, was inhaled by Zhang Yun. Zhang Yun immediately coughed violently. Then his eyes became blurry and he fell to the ground. Second brother. Zhang Tian's expression changed. He looked at Zhang Yun, who had lost consciousness and was lying on the ground, and immediately shouted. I didn't expect that Zhang Tian would use such despicable methods. Now, he harmed others and himself. Instead, he harmed Zhang Yun. But that Yi Hao, how did he react so quickly? I was wondering why the 2 of them would suddenly go all out. So it was because they wanted to use such shameless methods. Everyone saw the 3-turned soul, enchanting incense that Zhang Tian scattered and immediately understood. Damn it, When the second princess saw that Zhang Tian had failed, she couldn't help but slam her fist on the table in front of her. At this moment, Wu Sua's face was ashen. What a piece of trash. Die! Yi Hao swept his sword and directly pierced Zhang Yun's neck. No! Second brother. Zhang Tian couldn't help but roar in anger as he watched Zhang Yun being killed. Bastard, I'm going to fight it out with you. At this moment, Zhang Tian had clearly lost his mind and wanted to fight it out with Yi Hao. At this moment, Zhang Tian's entire body's martial power burst forth. His eyes were blood red as he attacked Yi Hao. Seeing the powerful martial power burst forth from Zhang Tian's body, the people standing in the arena couldn't help but take a few steps back, afraid that they would accidentally injure themselves. Is this Zhang Tian crazy? Everyone present couldn't help but exclaim when they saw Zhang Tian's current state. Fight out with me? You're not worthy. Yi Hao snorted disdainfully. His body moved, and the long sword in his hand attacked again. The cold sword in Yi Hao's hand was like a silver dragon that went straight for Zhang Tian's neck. Puchi! The sharp long sword instantly cut off Zhang Tian's head, and Zhang Tian's body instantly froze on the spot. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for killing a rank 2 demon supremacy warrior. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 60,000 experience points. Why aren't you all kneeling down? Yi Hao held the long sword in his hand and swept his cold gaze across the crowd. Plop! Just as Yi Hao finished speaking, Zhang Tian's body fell to the ground with a thud. When the crowd saw Zhang Tian and Zhang Yun's bodies, their hearts trembled for no reason. Looking at the cold sword in Yi Hao's hand that was still stained with blood, the crowd was even more fearful. None of them dared to look into Yi Hao's eyes. Plop! 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 The remaining few people couldn't hold on anymore and knelt at Yi Hao's feet. Seeing this scene, everyone present fell silent. This was because no one had expected Yi Hao to actually win. Furthermore, Yi Hao had defeated 9 people single-handedly. Everyone couldn't help but be curious as to who exactly Yi Hao was. He won. He actually won. At this moment, Zhao Ling looked at the tall figure in the arena excitedly. Preposterous. When the second princess saw this scene, she couldn't help but gnash her teeth. 2 of her trusted aides had actually been killed just like that. The murderous intent in the second princess's eyes intensified, but with the eldest princess as an example, she didn't dare to act recklessly at this moment. She could only suppress the anger in her heart. As for the eldest princess and Wu Sua, they were also looking at Yi Hao with gloomy eyes. They both viewed Yi Hao as a thorn in their side. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.